2021 to 2022. The committee may wish to note that the funds have since been used for the intended purpose. B. Failure to secure land. Chilanga Aquaculture Research Station. Section 41 of the Public Management Act No. 1 of 2018 requires a controlling officer to ensure that all public properties under his or her charge are secured with title deeds. Contrary to the Act, title deeds for the Chilanga Aquaculture Research Station, which is the Chilanga Fish Farm, on which mono-species fingerling production, research and extension services are carried out, had not been secured as at 31st July 2022. In addition, the property was not properly fenced. Consequently, the property was encroached by several individuals. A review of a report from the Chilanga Aquaculture Research Officer dated 8th May 2022 revealed that one of the boreholes had been taken up by the encroachers and had affected water supply and reticulation for the station. The Auditor General's observation is noted. The committee may wish to note that the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock engaged Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources on this matter, although there has been little progress. The Ministry of Lands gave guidance on how the ministry would work with the provincial surveyors' offices on the process of acquiring the title deeds. Corrective action. The committee may also wish to note that in 2014, the Parliamentary Committee on Agriculture, Land and Natural Resources instructed that the fish farm be moved to another place where there would be adequate water resources and land for expansion. To this effect, the ministry, through the Zambia Aquaculture Enterprise Development Project, identified land in Kafue, where an aquaculture research institute is being developed. So far, the construction works are at 95% as at the end of September 2022. After completion, all research activities will be moved to Kafue. Furthermore, the Council has requested that the land in question be surrendered to Chilanga District Council for development projects, as it has been designated as the Central Business District for Chilanga. Documentary evidence in Appendix 1, 1A and 1B. C. Irregular cash withdrawals, Department of Fisheries. Ministry of Finance, Treasury and Finance Management Circular No. 1 of 2020 guided controlling officers that no cash should be withdrawn for payment of subsistence allowances, fuel refunds, and any other allowances, as these would be paid directly into the beneficiary's account. Contrary to the circular, cash amounting to 344 kwacha 769 was drawn by the cashier for the payment of subsistence and fuel allowances to several officers. In addition, management did not provide acquittal sheets as at 30th May 2022. The Auditor General's observations that impress withdrawn for payment of fuel and allowances is noted. The cause? The committee may wish to note that the impress were drawn to pay officers who were coming from Lusaka district that accompanied the Honorable Minister on urgent assignments. Corrective action. The committee may wish to note that activities for which the impress were drawn were undertaken. The activity report and retirement details are available. Further, the officer who drew the impress was reprimanded for not adhering to Ministry of Finance, Treasury and Finance Management Circular No. 1 of 2020 on the management of imprests. Documentary evidence is in Appendix 2. I submit. Section 40, Enhanced Smallholder Livestock Investment Program. Enhanced Smallholder Livestock Investment Program, ESLIP, was established on 11th May 2015 through the signing of a 46.86 million loan grant agreement between the Republic of Zambia and the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD. It had a 7-year timeline, with the completion date being 30th June 2022 and closing date of 31st December 2022, targeting 180,000 rural households in Zambia. The program is responsible for the eradication of contagious bovine pneumonia, control of East Coast fever, sustainable production and utilization of forage and forage seed, and proper stocking and restocking. The financing agreement was broken down as shown in Table 1. The loan, 14.2 million. Grant, 0.87 million. Rural Poor Support Facility Grant, 0.56 million.
PS on the tables, just keep them and proceed.
Keep them?
Yes.
Fine, thank you. ESLIP has the following three components. Animal disease control sustainability improved by two sub-components, eradication of CBP and control of ECF. Component 2, livestock production system sustainably improved, which has two components, namely forage, sustainable forage and forage seed production and utilization, and proper stocking and restocking. Component 3 is effective management. An examination of accounting and other records maintained at the project implementing unit and selected districts revealed the following: budget, funding, and expenditure. In the ESLIP annual work plan and budget for the financial year ended 31st December 2021, a provision of 222,187,164 kwacha was made to cater for various activities, against which amounts totaling 142,335,368 kwacha were released, resulting in an underfunding of 73,851,796 kwacha. As at 31st December 2021, amounts totaling 130,402,988 kwacha had been spent. The Auditor General's observation is noted. The unspent amounts of 17,932,380 were funds that were only received by the program in the last week of December 2021 and could not be utilized as at 31st December 2021. Corrective actions. The funds were retained and carried forward to 2022 and have since been utilized for the intended purpose. Documentary evidence is in Appendix 3. Operational matters. B. The animal disease control sustainably improved component of the project aimed at reducing the prevalence of contagious bovine pleural pneumonia and East Coast fever to levels that allowed smallholder herds to grow. During the period under review, the project had a budget of 30,412,197 kwacha to cater for animal disease control, and the whole amount was funded. As at 31st December 2021, amounts totaling 17,700,866 had been spent. The following were observed: failure to meet targets and failure to train farmers in animal disease control. During the period under review, ESLIP budgeted and spent a total amount of 113,750 on training 600 livestock farmers on various animal health topics in Muchinga, northern, northwestern, southern, and western provinces. However, 458 livestock farmers were trained, whilst 142 were not trained as at 30th June 2022. The Auditor General's observation is noted. The committee may wish to note that out of the 600 farmers that were targeted for training in 2021, 458 farmers were trained, leaving 142 untrained. The 142 farmers were not trained because the funds for the training were received during the farming season, when most farmers shunned the training because the planting season had begun. Corrective action. Training for the 142 farmers that were not trained in 2021 were planned to be conducted in 2022 and have since been conducted. Going forward, the program has trained community CBP task forces who in turn are to train the local farmers on a continuous basis. Appendix 4 is the documentary evidence. Failure to meet the immunization target. In 2020 and 2021, ISLI planned to conduct East Coast fever infection and treatment method immunization of 260,000 calves in Central, Copperbelt, Eastern, Lusaka, and Southern Province. As at 30th June 2022, a total of 102,066 calves were vaccinated, whilst 157,934 were not immunized. The Auditor General's observation that 157,934 calves were not immunized against the East Coast fever is noted. The cause? The cows were not immunized against East Coast fever because some farmers were not able to raise the fees charged for ECF immunization. Corrective action? The Ministry has enhanced extension and sensitization of farmers to adopt the calf immunization. Component 2. The livestock production system sustainably improved. Component aim was to improve and promote sustainable production and productivity of key livestock systems for targeted male and female smallholder producers, as provided for in Part 81 to 175 of the final program design report. The component was managed by the Department of Livestock Development and had two components, namely sustainable forage and forage seed production, and utilization and pro-pure stocking and restocking. During the period under review, the component had a budget provision of 168,881,966 kwacha, out of which 97,652,771 kwacha was received and spent. The following were observed. Failure to sign contracts with beneficiary groups. Clause 82 of the ISLI project design report stipulates that stocking and restocking groups would be introduced to the principles of livestock stocking and restocking based on a pass-on approach, whereby those members who received animals agree through a signed contract to transfer the equivalent first female offspring to another member of the group when the animal reaches 6 to 12 months of age. However, a review of records revealed that management did not sign contracts with the beneficiaries who received livestock costing 1,823,175 kwacha. The Auditor General's observation is noted. The cause? The committee may wish to note that the farmer groups had signed on undesignated forms acknowledging receiving the animals instead of the formal contractual forms. Corrective action. The farmer groups affected have since signed the contract on formal contract forms to normalize the contracts. Samples of the formal contracts are available for audit verification. Going forward, the program has availed the formal contract forms to the district officers and community facilitators to ensure that contracts are signed when the animals are given to the farmers. Documentary evidence is in Appendix 5. Failure to conduct training. Clause 85 of the ISLI program design report provides that prior to the distribution of purchased livestock or through pass-on, village stocking and restocking groups will be provided with up to 20 days training over a 2 to 3 month period on gender awareness, group formation and management, leadership, entrepreneurship, and negotiation skills, market orientation, livestock production, and animal health management for cattle, goat, pig, and poultry, farm business management, including business planning and record keeping, household nutrition. An inquiry made with staff at both Ndola and Kitwe District Fisheries and Livestock Coordinators offices and selected beneficiary groups revealed that there was no training provided to the beneficiary groups prior to the distribution of the purchased livestock. The Auditor General's observation is noted. Cause. The committee may wish to note that at the time of the audit, the auditors were not availed the documentation pertaining to this training because the documents were still with officers in Ndola and Masaiti who conducted the training. When the auditors came for audit verification, they did not go to the districts to verify the information. As a result, the matter remained outstanding. Corrective action. The documentation supporting this training has now been collected by the Program Coordination Office and is available for verification. Going forward, community facilitators and district officers have been advised to share their training supporting documents as part of the acquittal of funds sent to them for the trainings. Documentary evidence is in Appendix 6. Unaccounted for livestock. Public Stores Regulation number 16 requires that every stores officer or any other officer having in his charge any public stores or other articles of public property must keep and maintain record of the receipt and issue of such public stores. A review of records carried out in March and April 2022 at the Project Coordination Office and selected district coordinating officers revealed that 39,872 livestock and CBP vaccines costing 7,642,347 kwacha received by the Project Coordination Office and the District Agricultural Coordinating Offices did not have goods issued vouchers and distribution lists of beneficiaries. Consequently, it was not possible to determine the beneficiaries of the livestock and vaccine, as shown in Table 3. The Auditor General's observation is noted. The committee may wish to note that there was a discrepancy in the records held at the districts and those held at Program Coordination Office for the livestock and vaccines that were sent for distribution to the beneficiaries. The affected districts were asked to reconcile their documents with those held by the Program Coordination Office and to maintain an updated record of all their activities. The committee may wish to note that the fisheries and livestock officers in the districts have no stores officer. Therefore, the district coordinators have been advised to appoint officers to be responsible for stores management. Documentary evidence is in Appendix 7. Accounting irregularities. Unretired accountable of Impressed Program Coordination Office. Regulation number 104, Section 1 of the Public Finance Management General Regulations of 2020 stipulates that special or accountable imprest should be retired immediately after the purpose for which the imprest was issued is fulfilled. Contrary to the regulation, imprest in amounts totaling 2,308,625 kwacha issued to several officers in order to facilitate the implementation of various activities during the period under review was not retired as at 31st July 2022. The Auditor General's observation is noted. The cause: the imprest in question was not retired at the time of the audit as the activities for which the imprest was given had not yet been concluded. As for the funds sent to the districts, it should be noted that these funds were sent at the close of 2021 and activities were only implemented in 2022. Corrective action: the unretired imprest that remained unretired at the time of the audit has now been fully retired and is available for review by the Auditor General. Documentary evidence is in Appendix 8. Unsupported payments, CBP vaccinations. Public Finance Management Regulation number 55 of 2020 requires that a signatory ensures that original documents such as invoices, salary sheets, and claim forms are attached to the payment voucher. Contrary to the regulation, there were 11 payments in amounts totaling 54,355 kwacha made at Mongu District Office which were unsupported in that they lacked relevant documents such as budgets, invoices, GRNs, and goods issued vouchers. The Auditor General's observation is noted. The committee may wish to note that the payments in question were approved at program coordination level, but other documents such as invoices, GRN, and goods issued vouchers were not attached. The cause: the payments were not adequately supported because of the district's inability to follow the laid down procedures when making payments. Corrective action. The committee may wish to note that the district in question has since supported and submitted the relevant documents to support the payments in line with the financial regulations and guidelines. The district coordinators have been guided to follow applicable financial guidelines and regulations when making payments regardless of whether the payment is GRZ or project financed. Documentary evidence is in Appendix 9. Unaccounted for stores. Public Stores Regulation number 16 requires that every stores officer or any other officer having in his charge any public stores or other articles of public property must keep and maintain a record of the receipt and issue of such public stores. Contrary to the regulation, various stores item costing 318,113 kwacha procured under the project were unaccounted for in that there were no receipts and disposal details. The Auditor General's observation is noted. The cause, the query was mainly caused by the district's inability to follow procedures when collecting and distributing the vaccine from their storeroom. Corrective action. The districts in question have now fully accounted for the stores item they received from the Program Coordination Office, and their record has been reconciled to that held by the Program Coordination Office. The respective districts have since been advised to appoint an officer to ensure stores records are maintained at district level that match the record maintained at the Program Coordination Office. I submit.
Thank you, PS. You can proceed on the next page.
Provincial and district office, the livestock offices. The ministry is mandated to follow policies and oversee the development of fisheries and livestock sectors in the country. An examination of accounting and other records maintained at the provincial fisheries and livestock and selected district offices revealed the following. In the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the financial year ended 31st December 2021, a provision of 30,573,745 kwacha was made to cater for operations against which a total amount of 26,813,970 kwacha was released, resulting in an underfunding of 3,759,775 kwacha. As at 31st December 2021, amounts totaling 24,044,672 kwacha had been spent. The Auditor General's observation is noted that the ministry was underfunded by 3,759,775 kwacha and only spent 24,044,672 kwacha. As at 31st December 2021, out of 26,813,970 kwacha released. Cause: the ministry had submitted funding profiles to Ministry of Finance and National Planning in the year under review according to the budget, but the Treasury only released funds as stated above. The funds that remained unused at the end of the year were part of the foot and mouth disease control funds that were sent to the provinces. The provincial and district officers couldn't spend all the funds received by 31st December 2021 because the FMD vaccination exercise is done in phases. Corrective action. The ministry sought authority from the Treasury to return the funds from 2021 to 2022, which was authorized. The committee may wish to note that the funds have since been used for the intended purpose. B. Operational matters. Management of breeding centers, fish farms, deep tanks, and veterinary camps. 1. Failure to meet revenue target. Section 11(1)(m) of the Public Finance Management Act number 1 of 2018 provides that a controlling officer is responsible for planning and controlling of revenue collection and expenditure of public funds appropriated under the controlling officer's control, including taking effective and appropriate steps to collect revenue due to the head of revenue and expenditure under their charge as appropriated by Parliament. Contrary to the Act, revenue in amounts totaling 1,936,304 kwacha in respect of permits, meat inspections, fish production, among others, were budgeted to be collected by 3 stations, out of which 1,320,151 kwacha was collected, leaving a balance of 616,153 kwacha uncollected. The Auditor General's observation that the 3 cited revenue collection centers under-collected revenue to a total of 616,153 kwacha is noted. The cause, the under-collection, was caused by COVID-19 outbreak in 2021 due to restricted movement of staff to undertake patrols and inspections, and clients could also not travel to access services, resulting in under-collection of revenue. In addition, the country experienced animal disease outbreaks, compelling government to put restrictions on animal movements, thus contributing to the under-collection of revenue. Corrective action. The ministry has been making efforts to control animal diseases as from last year, and there has been an improvement in revenue collections, especially that human movement restrictions caused by COVID-19 have been lifted. Documentary evidence is in Appendix 10. Failure to insure animals. During the period under review, a total of 1,101 animals comprising cattle, sheep, goats belonging to 5 breeding centers under 4 provincial fisheries and livestock officers had not been insured as at 31st July 2021. Further, it was observed that a total of 156 animals at Kalungwishi and Batoka breeding centers died from various diseases, resulting in a loss to government. The Auditor General's observation is noted. It is regrettable that the above 4 animal multiplication centers had not insured the animals in the year under review. The cause, the centers had not insured the animals mainly due to inadequate funding and reduced revenue collection by the centers. Failure to mark animals. Shangogo. Section 6.1 of the Animal Identification Act number 28 of 2010 requires owners of animals to mark them with an identification mark. Contrary to the Act, 58 cattle whose value could not be ascertained had not been marked with identification marks as at 31st July 2022. The Auditor General's observation that 58 cattle had not been marked with identification marks as at 31st July 2022 is noted. Cause, the 58 cattle were not marked because the district could not purchase ear tags due to inadequate funding. Corrective action. The 58 cattle that were not marked at the time of audit have since been marked and tagged. The district coordinator has since been guided to prioritize the marking of animals whenever the district is funded in order to avoid the pilferage of animals. Documentary evidence is in Appendix 11. Accounting irregularities. Unaccounted for stores. Public Stores Regulation number 16 stipulates that every stores officer or any other officer having in his charge any public stores or other articles of public property must keep and maintain records of the receipt and issue of such public stores. Contrary to the regulation, stores items costing 616 kwacha 972, general stores which was 333,837 kwacha, and fuel of 283,135 kwacha procured during the period under review at 15 stations were unaccounted for in that there were no receipts and disposal details. The Auditor General's observation that 15 stations failed to account for stores items costing 616,972 kwacha is noted. The committee may wish to note that the ministry in the provinces has inadequate staff, including stores officers, who could have adequately accounted for the stores in question. However, the stores in question have been updated and the receipt and disposal details are available for audit verification. The provincial and district fisheries and livestock coordinators have been advised to use the services of identified officers for stores management so that all stores procurement is accounted for adequately. Documentary evidence is in Appendix 12. Unsupported payments. Public Finance Management General Regulations number 46 of 2020 stipulates that payment voucher relating to purchases should be supported by a purchase order, the supplier's invoice, and proof of delivery or performance. Contrary to the regulation, 25 payments in amounts totaling 104,621 kwacha made during the period under review were not supported with relevant documents such as invoices and cash receipts. The Auditor General's observation that 25 payments in amounts totaling 104,621 kwacha were unsupported is noted. The committee may wish to note that the stations in question had not collected the receipts from the suppliers, and in some cases the supporting documents were misplaced. However, the payments in question have now been supported with the relevant documents. The provincial and district fisheries and livestock coordinators have been directed to ensure that all payments are properly supported. Documentary evidence is in Appendix 13. Irregular payment of subsistence allowance. Cabinet Office Circular Minute of 2015 defines a workstation as a place within the district boundary. Further, the circular guides that subsistence allowance should be paid to an officer to cover expenses he or she has to meet when traveling on duty away from his or her normal station of duty where an overnight stay is expected. Contrary to the circular, amounts totaling 49,297 kwacha were paid to 12 officers as daily subsistence allowances for activities that were taken within the district boundaries. The observation of the Auditor General is noted. It is true that allowances of 42,325 kwacha were paid as subsistence allowances on fish ban patrols and manning of checkpoints, broken down as 3,800 for fish ban patrols and 38,525 for manning checkpoints. The cause, the payment of 3,800 was paid to 7 officers as meal allowance to facilitate fish ban patrols in the lower Zambezi River. The patrols were conducted at night with the support of law enforcement agents to ensure compliance and also for security of the officers. The patrols were on the lower Zambezi bordering Zambia with Zimbabwe, ranging from Luangwa Boma, right at the Luangwa-Zambezi River confluence, up to Kavalamanja, which is porous and closely associated with fish and livestock tax evasion. Further, payments of 38,525 were made to officers to man checkpoints at Luangwa Bridge checkpoint at Rufunsa to regulate animal products and animal byproduct movements for the purpose of controlling animal diseases. The officers from Luangwa district, on authority from the provincial veterinary officer, were paid subsistence allowances, considering they were working at Rufunsa checkpoint, which is in another district. Unacquitted payments, Batoka Fisheries and Livestock Development Center, Southern Province. Public Finance Management Regulation number 68(1)A of 2020 stipulates that payment made through a third party should be supported with a receipt or acquittal sheet. Contrary to the regulation, 3 payments in amounts totaling 39,153 kwacha made at the center in respect of allowances for staff meetings, induction, and orientation were not acquitted by the beneficiaries, and no cash was found on hand as at 31st July 2022. The Auditor General's observation that 3 payments in amounts totaling 39,153 kwacha made at the center were not acquitted is noted. The committee may wish to note that the payments in question were in fact acquitted by the beneficiaries, and the acquittal sheets were verified by the auditors at the time of audit verification. The verified acquittal sheets are available. Appendix 14. Failure to settle obligations. As at 31st December 2021, 19 stations had outstanding obligations in amounts totaling 21,087,525 kwacha in respect of personal emoluments, rehabilitation of the office building, and utility bills, among others. The Auditor General's observation that 19 stations had outstanding obligations in amounts totaling 21,087,522 kwacha is noted. The cause? The failure to liquidate the arrears is attributed to the fact that the Ministry is dependent on the Treasury for funding to pay outstanding arrears. Corrective action? The committee may wish to note that the Treasury released amounts totaling 6,136,064 kwacha in June 2022 against an outstanding amount of 41,555,039 kwacha 19 ingwe. Documentary evidence is in Appendix 15. Failure to secure title deeds. Section 41(4) of the Public Finance Management Act No. 1 of 2018 requires controlling officers to ensure that all public properties under their charge are secured with title deeds. Contrary to the Act, 17 stations did not secure title deeds for parcels of land on which 57 property staff houses and breeding centers were located as at 31st July 2022. The Auditor General's observation is noted. The committee may wish to note that the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock engaged Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources on this matter, although there has been little progress. The Ministry of Lands gave guidance on how the ministry would work with the provincial surveyors' offices on the process of acquiring the title deeds. Failure to insure motor vehicles and motorcycles. Section 86 of the Road Traffic Act No. 11 of 2002 requires all users of motor vehicles and trailers to have at least third-party insurance. Contrary to the Act, 15 motor vehicles and 34 motorbikes at 11 stations whose value could not be ascertained were not insured as at 31st July 2022. The Auditor General's observation that 15 motor vehicles and 34 motorbikes at 11 stations were not insured is noted. The cause? The above assets were not insured because of inadequate funding that the affected stations received. Some vehicles and motorcycles were not operational in the year, so they could not be insured. Corrective action. The committee may wish to note that some of the vehicles and motorcycles have since been insured, whilst arrangements are being made to insure the rest. The provincial and district coordinators have been directed to prioritize the insuring of assets when they receive funding for recurrent departmental charges. Documentary evidence is in Appendix 16. I submit.
Thank you, PS. That is a submission, honorable members, from the Minister of Fisheries and Livestock. Honorable colleagues and the PS, I invite you to take your tea now. We'll break for 5 minutes. Then we can now question the PS and her team. So PS have lifted the immunity. We can proceed and have tea now. We give tea before we question. We can proceed, honorable members, and let's take note of time so that in the interest of time we proceed quickly. We may have the tea. Thank you so much.
Recording stopped.
On Know Your Constituency, we profile one of the most prominent constituencies in the country.
The constituency is facing a lot of challenges, but the major ones are, number one, poor road network, communication network, no financial institutions, no colleges, no electricity, and inadequate infrastructure in both education and health.
bayuthi nabo onayika mulandu n'obwalwa nabana mayo bonse n'abaponenamu nsunko ubwalwa shena nashibonawula
ekyo ndeko nkomesha ndeko obuyantanshi kuno kwanga obuchinjeko kuno mukushi is a farm block ande mukushi no turalima ko ifintu sana sono misevo poor road networks ote challenge tukwete po tuleshingwana na yena.
In Mukushi we watch Parliament TV.
Watch Parliament TV, the TV that brings Parliament closer to our community.
Parliament TV kudia,
keep watching Parliament Television.
Tune in to Parliament Television for live parliamentary proceedings, parliamentary committees, and learn more about the operations, functions and activities of the Zambian Parliament. Catch us live on DSTV channel 272, GoTV channel 100, Topstar channel 5, or visit the National Assembly of Zambia Facebook page. Parliament Television, bringing Parliament closer to you.
It's brand new entertainment for a brand new you this 2023. Join dancing sensation Oti Mabuse as she travels through South Africa, introducing us to friends and family.
Growing up good was never enough. We had to push ourselves. We had to be the best.
Fire up a feast with Chef Nico as he creates mouth-watering barbecue masterpieces, from brilliant breakfasts to delicious desserts.
My favorite thing about this recipe is the combination. And you can add this to your barbecue repertoire and thank me later.
Unravel the mysteries as a humiliated detective gets banished to the town of Three Pines to solve a series of gruesome murders.
Secrets lead to lies.
The truth is in what we don't see.
And dive into the dangerous with an exhilarating expedition from Seattle to Russia on Human Story Saturdays.
Walking through these temple and garden grounds, you feel kind of this zen.
Stay connected to the best TV for your best 2023 with DSTV.
You know, in Ghana, when someone passes, we need to celebrate a week.
You're putting up a billboard?
I wanted to give my mother the best of the best in everything.
If there's no plus pallbearers, I think they will rate you as a poor funeral.
$1 million pallbearers.
When you are coming,
you prepare.
You have to go to the bank and take a loan that I'm going to funeral.
Stay connected to the ones you love this festive. People like Erling and There's Alvin and this funny bunch too.
Don't mind me.
Stay connected to Magdalene and Joshua.
Come on, that is too sweet.
People like us, people from our own backyard, and the big stars as well.
All feels pretty great.
So stay connected to DSTV and get us your free upgrade Mulimo. It's your festive moment with DSTV.
We had to produce for this nation that flag to demonstrate the meaning of what we were as a nation. And we explained exactly what that flag stood for. So it was an extremely important flag. The importance of that flag at that time is exactly what it is today. And it's important that those who are teachers, who are whatever, are able to impart some knowledge to young people, they ought to use the importance of that flag. Its meaning, whatever level of schools they are at, they must remember the importance of our flag, national flag. Is key to the future of Zambia.
Proceed with questions. Head 86, which is headquarters, paragraph 40.1. PS, I would request that other people from the project can take seats here. The people we need to talk to, because we are dealing with headquarters and the project. Then I'll go to provincial. That's the order of how we're going to proceed. Honorable members, we can proceed on budget, funding and expenditure. Paragraph, that's on page 1 of the submission. Any questions, you can proceed. Honorable Mkumbi, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm just wondering, the budgetary provisions for the ministry were in the tune of 830 million, and the ministry was underfunded. I think they only received about 453 million. But even after being underfunded, they still did not exhaust the whole entire 553. So I'm wondering whether our colleagues in the planning department, through the controlling officer, whether your activities were well planned, or maybe you over budgeted certain issues, because how can you still be underfunded and you still don't exhaust the underfunding? Chair, I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Lomayu, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, as who come from the rural constituencies, this is the ministry which is at heart and agriculture. And the Chair, as stated by my neighbor here, Honorable Mukumbi, that they are only funded with 453 million. But what I want to know, Chair, from the PS, out of 830 million, according to their budget, I wanted the PS to help this committee understand what was affected due to the underfunding in your ministry, so that we can know how the ministry is progressing. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed and answer those questions. If anything, you can also delegate to some of your staff. You can proceed, PS.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Why was the money not exhausted? Quite a bit of money was released in December. I think it was the second week of December. If you look at the procurement procedures for government, it is not possible to do it in 2 weeks unless you do something contrary to government regulations. Therefore, we failed to spend the money, that was all of it. As for what was affected, Quite a few activities were affected by the underfunding. We could not carry out our fish ban activities adequately. We also failed to complete certain structures that we were supposed to have done, constructed. We failed to pay off our personal emoluments, and you find that our debt stock was increased because of that. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. Do you have any follow-up questions to that? Honorable Mukumbi, Honorable Lumai? Nothing? Honorable Mukumbi, then Honorable Mkosa. You can proceed after Honorable Mukumbi. Thank you.
I don't think she responded to my question as posed the controlling officer. My question is, even after being underfunded, you still did not manage to exhaust all the funds. Your underfunding was to the tune of about 377. So you were given 553 million, but you only exhausted 415. Now imagine you were paid, you were given a full amount at 100%, 830 million as projected by your ministry. Where are you going to manage? What really happened? So my question was, did your planners plan well? Or they just went fishing and they came up with a bloated budget? Because it's just half. Even at half, you have failed to finish. Chair, I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Mukosa, you can proceed.
Chair, I would like to find out from the controlling officer to advise this committee the amount that was released in December so that we can appreciate how much was given to you in the second week of December 2022. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed. I think maybe there's an issue of planning which has been raised by the honorable member. And even as you address the question, maybe you can look at that aspect. And then Honorable Mukosa, I would like to know the funding which was given to you, I think in the last week of December, just to authenticate and look at the numbers if they're tallying. So PS, with that said, you can proceed and answer the question or delegate it to one of your staff members. You can proceed, PS.
Thank you, sir. I'm not quite sure of how much money we received in the second week of December. I don't know if my director of finance remembers the amount.
Thank you, Director of Finance. You can switch on the mic and proceed. Tell us what was received.
Thank you, Chair. The unspent amount, I think it was about 38 million. Like the PS has indicated, the funds were received in the second week of December. And the idea, the procurement process, it takes actually longer than a month. So, Chair, the funds were actually requested for retention, of which retention was granted, and were actually spent in the following year.
Thank you. Honorable Mkosa, follow-up question, then PS is also a pending question.
Controlling officer and a finance director, the reason why we're trying to find out how much was given to you in December, it is because in your response you have indicated that the reason why you have not utilized, you didn't utilize the money that you were funded, it is because you were some of the money was funded to you late. And we do understand that within the 2 weeks that remained in 2022, it was difficult for you to utilize the money. But the question is, how much is that was given to you in December? We do understand that the money that you didn't spend is 38 million. So we want to know, were you given 38 million in December? Or were you given 15 million? Because even the minister, the treasury, they know they can't give you too much money towards the end of. So, yeah, well, prove us wrong. We want to understand.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mkosa. Before the PS comes in, the Director of Finance, Vice Chair can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. And in
her corrective action, the PS said that Ministry sought authority from the Treasury to retain the funds from 2021. PS, where is the attachment of the authorization letter? Submit here.
Thank you. PS, you've got 3 questions. The Director of Finance has a follow-up question from Honorable Mkosa. Maybe you can proceed and tackle that, then PS will come in to answer the 2 questions. You can proceed.
The question for, did the planners plan well? I believe that they tried to plan well. But when money is not given on time, I mean, right now we have several procedures. Before you can start a procurement, you have to have money in the bank. So even if you've planned that I'll buy a car, if the money doesn't hit the account, you cannot begin. Now, if the money hits late, and that is when you begin, several procedures, like one, when I'm tendering for, I'll stick to the car. If I'm tendering to buy a car, I am not allowed at the same time to send the contract to Ministry of Justice. I have to wait. After I've given the tender, I've given the contract, and there is money now sitting in my account, that is when I can now send the contract to justice. This means that all these 1 week, 2 weeks, they build up into a longer period of time, and that's what we were referring to, in that it becomes difficult. Not that we had not planned on what to use the money for. Also, at this, in the year 2021, we had a supplementary budget of, I think it was 100 million for FMD, and we were supposed to have vaccinated, I think it was in November. Unfortunately, because of the COVID outbreak, the majority of reagents for making vaccines was absorbed by the human sector. So you found that the livestock sector suffered. Our suppliers could not supply the vaccine on time. So there was also an amount of money that just sat in our accounts waiting for the vaccine to arrive from Botswana. And that is what caused the amount to be quite large that was sitting there, because it was beyond our control. We didn't have the vaccine, but we had the money.
Chair, in terms of the authority and how much we received in December, and also the authority for retention, we have some supplementary appendices. Probably I would ask the Chief Accountant maybe to just help us with the figures.
Director of Finance, we are looking at what you've, the response from the PS is what Vice Chair is looking at. But in here, in your appendix, there's nothing to show that Minister of Finance granted you authority to retain. Why is it not put in as one of the appendices? Because your appendices are starting on the issue of the land. I think the aforesaid land, which was also questioned. We can't see any attachment as into the retention of funds. Unless we are mistaken, you can guide us from your submission.
It appears to be an error on our part. We will make the documentation available.
Okay, we can. Any other questions, honourable members, before we proceed? Yes, honourable Mkosa.
Chair, the reason why we are insisting on this issue, we have so many problems in your ministry. I will give you an example. In Chinsali, we have foot and mouth disease that is terrorizing animals in Chinsali. What they need is the necessary medication, drugs, as well as your ministry financing the officers within the Ministry of Livestock and Fisheries, so that they can do the work that they need to do to ensure that they work towards treating treating the animals. Now, I don't think you releasing money to your officers so that they do the work, there is any bureaucracy or there is any lengthy procedure that needs to be followed. So why should you be keeping money when you have officers who are ready to work, as long as you just give them money so that they undertake the work? That is an acceptable controlling officer. Because when you talk about issues, that things that you have to procure, yes, we understand, maybe you need a month. For other things that you have to, just do internally, you don't need to follow procurement procedures. It's just maybe releasing money to your officers so that they go and do the work. As we speak right now in Chinsari and other districts in Muchinga and Northern, we still have foot and mouth disease, but we are sitting on the money. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Sabah. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. It's my follow-up question. PS, you said that it was an error for you to put not to put the attachment in this document. However, why didn't you avail it to the auditors during the auditing? Submit.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair. PS, maybe you can proceed with those two questions. We have a letter from the Chief Accountant, I think what General is going through. But there's a question. You can proceed, PS. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable. FMD has no treatment per se. What we do for FMD is we vaccinate. As I had stated earlier, the vaccine was being produced in Botswana. But last year, because of the COVID epidemic, Botswana could not procure enough reagents to make the vaccine. So Zambia paid for the vaccine, but it was not delivered. Then we also transmitted the money to our districts for them to vaccinate. They could not vaccinate when there was no vaccine. So they sat with the money in the bank, and that is part of the money that you are seeing here. That's why we asked for its retention, so that as soon as the vaccine was delivered to us in 2022, the same districts went out and vaccinated.
Thank you, PS. Maybe Chief Director Finance. I think the issue which is still hanging, yes, we have the authority here, Auditor General is going through, which you should have provided in the appendices. Maybe I think coming back to Honorable Mkosa's question on the amount which you funded, can we have an answer to that? How much were you funded? Yes, there's that issue of 38 million, we do understand. But now, in totality, how much were you funded in the last week of December? You can proceed, then we will now make progress.
It appears we will have to go back to our offices to find out that amount. We don't have it right now with us.
Okay, PS, thank you. Honorable Amima, have a question? Or we'll proceed to the next item, failure to secure land, Chilanga. We have those hanging questions. Yes, Honorable Amima can proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Controlling Officer on B, failure to secure land. We have this land that is in Chilanga and has actually been encroached, and in your submission you have said that there was a directive from the Agriculture Committee on Agriculture in Parliament to have this moved to another place, and that the Council has requested that the land in question be surrendered. You've also indicated that you've engaged the Ministry of Lands, but in your appendices we've got no proof of your engagement with Ministry of Lands. The only thing we have there are letters from the Council and letters from the area Member of Parliament. Where did you engage the Ministry of Lands over this land, and what is the position of this land? Maybe we can have more clarity on that. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Mkosazate hand. PS, before we proceed with Honorable Wamima's question, your officers have provided this authority which was addressed to you to retain funds, but however this authority is only for 30 million. There's still 8 million which is not in this authority, which has just been provided now. Auditor General was going through. Maybe before we proceed, the Director of Finance, can you maybe shed more light on this issue? Because the aforesaid funds are 38 million, but here it's only 30 million authority to retain. What transpired? We can even pass on, this is your document, we can pass on to you to just make sure that what we're talking about is what is pertaining on the ground. You can proceed, Director of Finance, through the PS. Then PS will come in with Honorable Wamima's question. We just want to close that matter for the retention of funds. Director of Finance, you can proceed.
Chair, I think we need to come up with the reconciliation because the project's funds are normally not retained. I mean, they are not part of the authority for retention. So we need to do a reconciliation just for us to come to terms with what the auditors came up in terms of the findings.
Is that 38 inclusive of the project funds? Thank you, but we are not. I think we're not. I'm not understanding one aspect. PS, if these funds we're talking about on this particular paragraph, headquarters, is it inclusive of the project fund? Because I'm thinking we're talking about GRZ funds, the 38 million.
The budget is inclusive of everything. The project funds, the donor, any money that passes through government is inclusive in the budget.
Okay. So then it must be returned, Director of Finance. We don't know what reconciliation you need to go and look for, because it's just an issue of did you retain the funds? You're right to retain. You see, there's no reconciliation. Yeah. So. Yes, you can proceed. You have a submission. You can proceed and answer.
Yes, I think that maybe in terms of clarity, what funds were related to projects and what funds related to GRZ in terms of retention, probably that is what would bridge the gap.
No, Director of Finance, your PS has ably explained all those funds, project and government, they're under one budget. They're budgeted. So what we are saying is, let's say you had 38 million in the account, which was supposed to be mopped by Minister of Finance. All you do is to write to retain 38 million. You are not writing to say, okay, this project is 8, so project, the procedure is different, let's retain 30, then we go. That's why we're asking, what reconciliation do you need to do? If you don't know here, you just don't know. Because we are not talking about figures to say they are not reconciling, then you say, no, we need to go and look at our ledgers, probably there's this figure from the district, we've omitted this, but it's a straightforward issue. 38 million. You wrote retention for 30 million. Why was it that? Because it's supposed to be 38. It's simple and straightforward. I don't know if you can answer that question. Honorable Lumai, you have another submission.
In addition, Chair, I just wanted to ask the PS also to clarify why this request was made way after the year ended. Because this letter, it was done on 4th January.
Thank you. His question, PS, is your letter was done on 3rd January, 4th January. But I think maybe Accountant General will help us with that. They've got a window period when they need to retain funds. They cannot do it they've got a window period in January. As we are speaking, I'm sure they're doing retention even this period. Maybe just to help the PS on that. Accountant General, am I correct, or maybe we can proceed and just clarify?
You are correct, Chair. They cannot write before the year end. Usually rotation is done the first week of January as a.
Thank you. Director of Finance, I don't know if there's any new submission on those reconciliations. I don't think there's anything to reconcile about. Unless, Auditor General, maybe you have something to say. Thank you. I think let's proceed. PS, there's a question from Honorable Amima on the issue of the property, the land issue.
Apologies, I have forgotten your question.
Honorable Amima can proceed and rephrase the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I was making reference to this land, which has now been encroached in Chilanga. And in the submission, the controlling officer has indicated engaging the Ministry of Lands. I was asking where that proof is that there's been that engagement, because it's not in the appendices, and what is the status of this land, because the council requested that this land be used for some construction of the mall, so there is no clarity on what the current position is. Maybe she can clarify that.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed.
Apologies for not having put that. I think last year we had put it in. We shall make the letter available. The position is that the land still belongs to Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock. We had earlier on been given a directive that no permanent secretary has the right to give out government land, and if there is any such request, we should forward it to Cabinet Office. We have since done that. We forwarded the request to Cabinet Office, and we await further instructions.
Thank you, PS. Is there any follow-up question? We proceed. Honorable Luma, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, there's need for the PS to be free, because as we speak, I'm sure the people who have encroached in this land, they are listening. Because, Chair, when you go through the letter by Honorable Lazo, MP for Chilanga, we are told that the ministry surrendered part of this land in 2019 for the construction of ShopRite and the shopping malls, and then the council road, and then Honorable Minister of Livestock, then Honorable Kandluo said no. So I think there is need for the PS to help us, or to help the people understand the issues surrounding this land, because it is the ministry itself which surrendered part of this land, and in the end we are told the minister refused. So it appears, Chair, that there is a confusion regarding this land, and the people who have encroached, the Ministry of Fisheries have failed to chase these people. So I thought when you go through the appendices, you see that there is really confusion, because even the former Member of Parliament, Honorable Maria Langa, also was pushing to have this land surrendered. So I thought the PS can freely tell this committee the issues surrounding this land, because even me, Chair, at personal capacity, I took interest to drive through that land and see what is really on the ground. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Romai. When you're making your submission, PS was very surprised. so I could tell from her facial expression. PS, maybe put us to speed. What is your status on this land? Even if you said you've, yes, we do understand your mandate, and you've alluded to the fact that you've written to Cabinet, if I've gotten you correctly. You've written for what? Is there a letter attached here which you've written? Is it, because that's state land. What is the position of the ministry? As a chief executive officer of the ministry, what is the position of the ministry over this land? Maybe you can guide us, you can proceed.
The position is that it's government land, and it will continue for other government activities. It may not be used for fish ponds, but for any other expansion that government may require. So that is our current position. They had been that back and forth, but we did not give away the land. The land still belongs to Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock.
Okay. Thank you, PS. Honorable colleagues, I think we can proceed. The PS has given us the position. All those correspondences there, that's a position, official position of the ministry, and we can make progress. We'll move to Yes, Honorable Omnima.
I just wanted to find out what is the status of the encroachers? How are they staying on the land? Are they paying, or they are part of government now? That's this is now it's a government. We need the committee needs to know these encroachers have even affected water education on the land. So what is the status? Since what is only clear is that the request to have more and so forth has been not been approved and it remains land. So what is the status of this? I submit, Chair.
Thank you, PS. You can proceed.
I'll leave it to my Director Fisheries.
Director Fisheries, you can proceed and answer the question.
Thank you, Chair. The status of the encroachers is that some of them, of course, they've acquired the title by now, but they are, as far as I think the ministry is concerned, this is to government land.
Now the Director of Fisheries is inviting questions. I can see every honorable member want to ask. Honorable Amima, since you asked a question, I'll give you a chance to proceed with the follow-up question. Then Honorable Daka, you want to ask a question also? Then Honorable Daka, then Honorable Mukumbi. You can proceed, Honorable Amima.
Chair, thank you very much. The reason I asked the first question is that I wanted to know what gives legitimacy to the encroachers persisting to stay there. Now, you are saying they have title, but this is land that you as a ministry have failed to secure title. So, how does land belong to government if private citizens have acquired some title for it, and you as a ministry have no title? So, we would like to know, if these are no longer encroachers, they are sitting on their land. Because an encroacher is government without title. So we would like to know how you are insisting that this is government land when these encroachers who have affected the water education have title. I submit, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Daka.
Cheers.
Thank you, Honorable Mukumbi.
Chair, overtaken.
Thank you. PS, we like our Honorable Wamima is explaining or asking that question. I think it's straightforward. It's a notorious fact that the one who has the title is owner of the land. That's why we want to know. I did ask earlier the question that what is the position. Kindly, I think, address that question as why I think we are taking things in a laissez-faire attitude as government. We know that land will drive there and pass through there. It belongs to, yes, the ministry, but the ministry has no title. And we have people who are now there with a title, who are the owners now, like Honorable Amima is saying, exactly his words. So tell us what you are doing as a ministry. Have you engaged them? Have you tried to, what mitigation measures are you taking? How many of them are there, and how much of the land are they sitting on, which they've now even acquired title? PS, you can proceed.
Thank you. I think there's a misnomer in the way we are using words. The ministry had a large portion of land in Chilanga. I think some 15 years ago, a large portion of that was subdivided into plots. Now, we tend to sometimes call those, because part of the land that was then distributed was land which the ministry had not wanted to give away, which was the dam and the water reticulation area. In our original designs, that was supposed to have been kept under the ministry so that we could continue using the fish ponds. Now, I don't want to use the wrong word, but shall I say something like, after we said, okay, give away section B, what was given away was B+. And people tend to keep on talking about encroachers when these people have been given legitimate title for that land. Now what has remained is the frontage where there's the fish ponds, where I think because they are dug out and people don't want their houses to be water, is still under the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock. So I think some of these words like encroachers comes because this is a historical question. It's been following us for several years, and previously they may have been called encroachers, but now they are actually owners of that land.
Honorable Amima, before I come in. Thank you, Chair. I'm laboring to understand how the ministry is securing this land, because there's no details of acreage of this land, and that's the controlling officer said B+. So the plus that has secured, the people have secured title. And for you to insist it's government land, you have no title for the land. So this delay in Chair, there is no practical steps being taken by the ministry to secure this land, in the sense that in the absence of title, beacons can be extended. What acreage is there? Can the ministry give details? At the point when they were giving plots to today, it seems that based on this submission is the PS submission, and she's talking of encroachers, and they have affected a boho there. So there is a genuine encroachment. By all means, this submission from the Ministry of Fisheries discloses genuine encroachment in government land, and this is government land without title. What mechanisms is the ministry insisting upon that they have secured this land? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. PS, maybe just to really understand if we're getting it correctly, is that you did, as a ministry, say this we don't need or whatever, let it be subdivided, excuse me, which was subdivided and issued. People eventually got title for the land. Now the plus, are you telling us a plus is where we have now those encroachers who now have gone near the ponds, or what, or they just gave excess, but that the excess which was given also title has been gotten, and now we are remaining with the just a frontage to say this is for the ministry. If that is the case, what are we doing as a ministry to ensure that that land either it's titled or it's secured, to ensure that the same people, tomorrow you find someone will, I can cite an example for you. In my district, you just wake up, someone has got a title. Say, this is my land. So someone will just come with a title, and then they say, we got this in 2019, it's our land, it was given by, then the ministry committee sat where and stuff like that. So that's why we are laboring to understand. Maybe tell us what you are doing as a ministry to secure that land. Thank you, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. You have understood me correctly in that the B+ was what we had not as a ministry planned for, because we knew that giving away the plus would make the fish ponds useless. But that is what happened. The plus was given away, and those people have title. So what we have left is where the research station, where the offices are, that belongs to us. On both sides of the road, where the fish ponds, then you'll find on the left-hand side there's the offices. Then across the road there's again another office. That area is about 5 hectares. We have written to Ministry of Lands, and they have told us that when the Surveyor General will come and map it for us to now start the proceedings, because we can't start the proceedings without a map. Unfortunately, because we have so much land which we are in the process of titling, we have been extremely slow, and therefore that's why we've submitted that very little progress has been made. I submit.
Thank you. We can proceed. The next item, which is a irregular cash withdrawal, Department of Fisheries. Honorable Melesiana, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Controlling Officer, in your submission you have indicated that interests were drawn to pay officers who were coming from Lusaka district that accompanied the Minister on agent assignments. And further, the officer who drew the interests was reprimanded for not adhering to the provisions of the circular. This committee would like you to clarify why is it that only one officer in whose name the interest was paid reprimanded, who initiated the payment, and also who authorized, and finally who approved the same payments? I submit.
Any question on irregular cash withdrawal? PS, you can, Honorable Mukosa, can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Controlling Officer, I've seen in your response you have indicated that the committee may wish to note that the interests were drawn to pay officers who were coming from Lusaka district that accompanied the Honorable Minister on an urgent assignments. Controlling Officer, do you think the fact that these officers were accompanying the Minister on an urgent matter, then it was necessary to contravene the provisions of the law?
Thank you. PS, you can proceed and answer Honorable Melesiana Perez's question. Honorable Mkosa's question is very, very important as well. And I think even in your submission, you should strike off accompanied by the Minister on urgent issues, because it doesn't augur well that that can even be done in the first place. You can proceed.
Director Finance will respond.
Director Finance, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I will start with the first question on why only one officer was charged. Chair, the nature of the process for authorization and the effective payment is that ideally when the payment is approved, in this case it wasn't really impressed, but at the point of executing payment, the officer was supposed to pay the beneficiaries through their respective accounts, and at that point he decided actually to draw the funds in his name, and hence the target for the charge. As to the reason whether this was done, I don't know whether I can proceed, Chair. As to the reason whether this was done because the activity involved the Minister, Chair, I think this was a primary negligence on the part of the payment officer. I submit.
Director of Finance, you are not even attempting to answer the question. Now you are taking this committee somewhere else. Because for starters, your submission to say this junior officer can change the payment, how? As the assistant accountant said, don't pay direct to their accounts, pay through me as a cashier, then I'll pay them. It doesn't happen like that. You are the senior most in that ministry, and you should understand that these things the way they are done to that effect. And then again, You are simply now rebutting your submission or submission of a PS. So I don't understand. Honorable Mukumbi has a question. Honorable Mukumbi, proceed, yes.
Just been wondering, just as a rider on your question there. I'm wondering, Chair, how an officer would change a decision by himself, one. Secondly, was that particular check open or closed, if it was a check? If it was open, who opened it? And if it was closed, how you did negotiate with the bank to open and get cash? Probably we need some answers there, Chair.
Thank you. Director of Finance, you can proceed through the PS and give us a good answer, please. You can proceed.
Chair, my apologies, probably I should have clarified. This department is actually a standalone department in terms of processing payments. The person in charge is an assistant accountant. And what it is, Chair, is that when the payment is approved, it's incumbent upon the assistant accountant to actually indicate what mode of payment should be effected. So in this case, this is why I'm saying it was wrong for him.
Maybe before you proceed, let me help you, Director of Finance. You have this assistant accountant probably sitting, let me say it's a project. He's the one in charge there. We do understand. When you raise something and you say we need to pay so, and the mode of payment, where does it take for signing? You can proceed. Where does it take that for sign?
Yes, sir, it is approved by the, in this case, the departmental head, depending on the threshold, and that amount is within the threshold, Chair. And the payments are actually effected in Chiranga district, where the department is. I submit.
So now we are not understanding something here. Because there's let's say there's an assistant accountant. Do they fall under your office as Director of Finance, or the autonomous, they do whatever they want to do?
In terms of reporting, Chair, they fall under the Department of Finance. But at that
under your office, I'm asking, not Department of Finance. You're Director of Finance. Does he fall under your office?
Yes, sir, they do.
That is a simple question we Director of Finance wanted to know, because you should know what's happening in some of these districts, or whatever they are called. Even those approvals, there is no way. That's an accounting officer should fall under your department, and there is no way someone will just go and pay these funds minus even your knowledge. I don't. Auditor General, maybe you've got maybe tell us what was on the ground.
The concern, I think, is the circular is very clear, and if you look at the response from the PS has also indicated that the circular was not followed. So probably what the committee may wish to, the comment from Honorable Piri was, how was this person, the assistant accountant, the one being disciplined? Because the payment voucher in government, it's got someone who check, someone who approve. Yes. There's actually there's a memo that is requested before even the payment voucher is prepared, and what you are paying for, and all those processes. So to come and say that the assistant accountant has the power to change, I think that's where the problem is. Probably the Director of Finance should just make a clarification. I don't think it's the way it is. He should probably make a clarification. There's an approving, like Honorable Mukumbi said, who opened the check. How were all those decisions made? I submit, Chair.
Thank you, AG. I honestly believe that we won't have a different position from the Director of Finance, unless otherwise. That is my submission before this committee. Yes, would have loved the same head of department from, is it Chilanga? I don't know, are they here? Is there anyone from Chilanga here? Maybe the Director of Fisheries, you sit in Chilanga. What transpired? How does it happen there? You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, what happened is that we had this request made, and the whole process of the way we process a payment was actually followed. It was at the point of paying the officers that it changed, because this activity was actually happening over time when the thinking was that if it was going to be to follow the process of paying into people's accounts, then the monies would not have hit the account before the activity. So I think there was a sense of urgency in terms of dispersing these funds to the concerned officers.
Director, I can switch off the mic. PS, your director now is giving us a lame excuse, a very big lame excuse, which we don't expect from the director. Your agency is not an issue bring before this committee. You need to plan. You need to know your activities. You need to know what you are doing. You can't come here, director, and start telling us no because it was agent. You want you to use agency to abrogate the Public Finance Act? No. That's why I told PS, remove that issue of the minister, what agency. We don't care about that. Your agency is your issue. Plan. If you are failing to plan, you can't come here and tell us no because it was agent. Then you are failing to plan, director. So that's a lame excuse which we can't even admit before this honorable committee. Honorable Wamima, you can ask your question and you have a position and proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, the submissions being made before this committee are taking us at sea. The Director of Finance talked about thresholds. We don't understand how the accounts assistant has the authority to approve single-handedly 344,000. Is this within his threshold? Then as well, we understand when they are talking about agents and so forth, but who approved this? The thing that is more concerning, Chair, is that the submission from the controlling officer is single-handedly putting the blame on the accounts assistant. I think which this committee cannot accept, that the accounts assistant is the only person to blame. Who is this supervisor? Why isn't the supervisor being disciplined? The supervisor checked this and approved this. So why you, the poor accounts assistant, is to blame for deciding on how this? Why are you just disciplining him? Are you saying this he undertook this single-handedly? This process was single-handedly undertook by him? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. Where's the assistant accountant? Have you come with him, Director of Finance? Is he here? I heard someone saying assistant accountant or something.
He's not here.
He's not here? Because is your assistant accountant? There's a tenders here. If you look at the amounts, I think that's what you've been doing maybe at Chilanga. Because not once. 1st October 2021, check number 6944, 72,800 PS. Go to November 5th, 2021, check number 6968, 41,000. So it's got a tendency of just drawing this money. Whoever the head of department will tell him, okay, use your name, let's sign, we want cash. It's just for their convenience. It's not for the agency director. PSC should stop. And the Director of Finance, please take charge. You remember you appeared before us last time. We told you some of these issues and they are repeating themselves. PS, we don't want to see these things under your ministry. This is not right. And this you cannot even qualify it to say no agency. They're just doing it on purpose. They want cash. Quickly they start using, abrogating the Public Finance Act. This should not happen. So our recommendation, this should stop. And tell, if you PS are issuing a circular, tell Director Finance, this should not be entertained in any district to do this. It's against the Public Finance Act. Honorable Loma, you can proceed.
Yeah, Chair, before we take position as a committee regarding this matter, the issue, Chair, even the activity reports were not submitted. I've taken note that the PS says the retirement details are now available. And Chair, our brother here, Mr. Collins Katongo, in appendix number 2, he says, yes, he withdrew this amount of money, 344,000, because of these activities. And my elder brother seated next to me, he said there was a request, Chair. I don't know if it was the minister or whoever who made this request. Now, looking at Chilanga, Chair, being a district, Mr. Katongo withdrawing 344,000, and we are not told what kind of this activity was, and we haven't been told whether this activity was not planned for. So, Chair, if we leave it just like that, maybe next time we hear that 1 million also was released. For me, Chair, my interest is to know who made this request, Chilanga being a district on its own, for them to withdraw this amount of money, 344,000, Chair, which is too huge to be withdrawn by a Mr. Katongo alone. So I wanted the PS to tell us who made this request. Was this activity so urgent that it did not wait to follow the procedure? And these refunds, how did they come? How did the people use their own money for them to be refunded this money by Mr. Katongo? So I thought that the PS can dig deeper to help this committee, because currently, as a committee, we appear to be at sea. We don't know what is happening with this matter. I submit, Chair, and Chilanga is very near, Chair. The officer can still rush here.
The sound is not good. Thank you, Honorable Lomai. I think we don't even need to bring that guy here. There's no need, essentially, because these things are not done in good faith. We have a position as a committee. They contravene the Public Finance Act. I think for us is to recommend and move forward, because there's no new thing is going to explain. What they did was wrong, and it's on purpose. We've seen from the Auditor General's, I don't know if it's management letter or what, it's showing how these events were happening. There's no explanation, PS, but for us to take position as a committee, and even as we will recommend maybe probably for Auditor General to do verification on those issues, because they are saying now they are ready to be checked, the returns or the acquittals, which if they were ready, I think you could have also even attached them, because that's when you are coming to appear before this committee. Then we'll make progress. So, honorable colleagues, I beg that we proceed. We'll have a position on this matter. In the interest of time, we'll proceed to 40.3. That is enhanced smallholder livestock investment program. We can proceed to budget funding and expenditure. If there are any questions, if not, we'll proceed to the other questions. You can proceed, honorable members. Honorable Amnima, can proceed.
Chair, thank you. Again, here, controlling officer, we are requesting for the authority to return the funds. This was not given during audit. Do you have it here?
Thank you. Any other question on budget funding and expenditure, paragraph 40.3? PS, you can proceed to answer the question.
Chair, these are project funds that were actually carried forward to the following year.
Thank you. Is there any clarification? Okay. We can proceed to the next question. As on operation matters, we can get to animal disease control sustainably improved, or I don't know if it's sustainability. There's failure to meet targets, failure to train farmers in animal disease control. There is also the failure to meet immunization target. So, honorable colleagues, we can proceed and ask questions on that. If Honorable Lomai picks one question, the other honorable can pick another question on the same. So we can look at failure to meet target, failure to train farmers, failure to meet immunization target, then failure to sign contracts with beneficiaries of livestock production systems and sustainably improved. Then another one can pick on failure to conduct training in the same vein, unaccounted for livestock. Yeah, so up to page 12. Honorable Oloma, you can proceed.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, on the issue by the Ministry failing to meet their target, Chair, the PS has told this committee that 142 farmers were not trained, Chair, because the funds for the training were received during the farming season, when most farmers shunned the training because the planting season had begun. And Chair, we have got 5 provinces in question here, and the Ministry has not told this committee which farmers and from which provinces shunned the training because it was during farming season. Because, Chair, I ask so, I find this answer not to be very good, because I don't think every farmer can run away to be trained because it is farming season. So I thought if the PS can help us to understand, so that I can know if from the 142 farmers who shunned to be trained, maybe Chavuma is amongst them, and maybe they're from Northwestern. So I thought to understand, I wanted to understand which farmers were these and from which province. I submit, Chairperson.
Thank you. Another, maybe Honorable Amima or any other honorable member to pick another question they have guided. Sure. Honorable Amima can proceed.
Also, just as I read on Honorable Mai's question, I'm looking at Appendix 4, the farmers list. There is nothing that validates this, that seems to validate this list. I don't know, we are really struggling to understand if this list was really an official government document, because it's just written and signed. What validates this list for us to justify a delay of training in 2021, which was very important, being done on 26 July 2022. Where is the list for 2021 training? Where is the list so that we can satisfy us? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Around 3 questions. The next question. If not, we can proceed. PS, those are 2 questions. We can proceed and answer the questions. Thank you. Concerning the training.
Thank you, Chair. I'm afraid I don't know exactly where these trainings were. Ms. Dr. Nyirongo. You can answer from there, I'm sure.
Dr. Nyirongo, you can come and take a seat. You can exchange with Director Planning. Dr. Nyirongo, you can proceed. Where's Dr. Nyirongo? Is that you?
Yes.
You can proceed with that. Give us the answer.
Thank you very much, Chair. The program coordinator will give a position on this. Thank you.
Where is the project coordinator? Yeah, proceed, project coordinator.
Thank you, Chair. I think two questions as to the first one being the districts that where the farmers were derived from, where for at this, the compilation we have is just at the provincial level for now. We would need to get back to the office and actually get the details of the districts. But generally it was all the districts that were, the farmers came from all the provinces mentioned. And then the second question on the farmers list and when the training was done. As we mentioned, the training was done, the funds were carried over and the training done in 2022.
Yes, Honorable Mfarari.
Point of order is raised, Chair. What's the name of the coordinator?
Can you state your name? My name is Muyeye Mululuma.
Dr. Muyeye Mululuma. But finding your answer, finding the answer, Chair, I think let the coordinator be serious with the issue at hand. It doesn't suffice. I think the question is very, very clear. You had an audit query that required you to indicate the areas that you have trained farmers under this project. And you are coming to this committee telling us that all districts came, and where are the lists for these farmers that we want to see in this project, and who are the coordinators in these districts? I submit, Chair, because this project was, I understand this project. It was a total, it was something else. Can we understand what was going on?
Thank you, Honorable Mfarari. I think the coordinator, Honorable Amima, asked a very valid question. If you look at your attachments, Appendix 4, PS, if I have to take you to Appendix 4, go to Appendix 4, Honorable colleagues. This document, even my person at home can just generate this. There's no authenticity here. It's just anyone has written numbers, phone numbers we can put. There's no NRC, there's no date stamp, there's no approved by, there's no prepared by. So who prepared these documents, Pana Coordinator? This is what we're talking about. This is just PS, even people when they're attaching some of these appendices, let's attach some seriousness, because this can this qualify to be a government document? It cannot qualify. Even if you took it to the courts of law, it cannot qualify to say, no, yes, me, I trained, yes, it is my list. Coordinator, can you explain where you got these appendices and why were they done in such a manner? Because we are facilitating government program. And also the Honorable Mfarari has asked a question. You can answer, then I'll allow Honorable Lumai to come in after you answer the question. You can proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think there are two documents marked as Appendix 4. We have one, a back to office report dated 16th August. Therein lies the details, and even the districts from which these farmers were trained were derived from is indicated in that appendix. There are two listed as Appendix 4. So the back to office report does state the districts in which the farmers were derived from.
Coordinator, you are not answering our questions, and you are not addressing things seriously. PS, I don't know, maybe do these things qualify to be acquittals or whatever they are called? I don't understand. Who prepared them? There's no one who prepared them. There's no one who made sure they checked, approved. Because these documents are acquitting what you are doing, the activity. Even here you come at Parliament when you're attending a workshop, we sign as honorable members. You sign, it's prepared by someone, and it's signed by, then the same register are the ones they use for paying or whatever they need to do, but this is, there's nothing, it's just date. Ministry of Fisheries, Republic of Zambia, attendance list, cooperative training, period. Is that authentic? No. Honorable Rubai.
Mr. Chairperson, our dear brother, is it the coordinator? His response, Chair, actually it is at variance with what the PS has submitted. Because he says farmers came from all the provinces, and in this report we are told 142 farmers were not trained. They shunned the training because it was farming season. And also, Chair, the same appendix number 4, if my eyes are telling me the truth, I see one individual preparing these names on a plain paper. And now, Chair, this being a government activity, seeing one person preparing this 26 July, we don't know if this piece of paper, this plain paper, was being done from Northwestern or from Muchinga, because you can see the date is underneath there. So I thought the director can do justice to help this committee understand, especially me, Chair, through the committee, who wants to know these 142 farmers who are not trained because they shunned the training because it was farming season. Sure.
Yes, Honorable. Well, before you just come, Honorable Waminima, the project coordinator, you've seen what you prepared and what was gotten. Why didn't you just prepare the same, what you prepared? List it, checked by, prepared by, and sign, and you approve, and you stamp it. Then you attach it as your appendix. Because what you've done is different from what you've allowed these people. Did you go in the field yourself, or you had assigned some officers to go in the field?
Thank you, Chair. The trainings were conducted by the district veterinary staff, and this back to office report was written by an officer attached to the program coordination office. And within this report, it does outline by districts where the trainings were conducted and the farmers that received that training. Your Honor, I submit. Like I said, there are two documents marked Appendix 4. So the back to office report does state that the training was conducted by the district veterinary officers in the districts outlined in that report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Amima.
Chair, I just want to understand, were these lists available during audit to the Auditor General's report? Because you see, your list on Appendix 4, that one which is on a plain paper and someone has put these names here are not appearing really on the back to office report. I'm trying to compare the names, and I'm trying to understand why you would submit such a list. It just looks like a list someone sat under a tree to. Even when you see 10, when you see signatures of 9 and 10, Blajis Chireshe and Media Sakwimba, Gombe, the same, almost the same signatures on this first appendix 4. So when you are taking us to this back office report, it's totally another group. So different group. So for me, Chair, I'm really concerned with this list written 26th July. Was it there? Did the auditors find it during audit? Maybe we can just be guided. And we also would want to know, he's not answering clearly, these 142 farmers, where are they coming from, which districts? We are still giving too many stories. We just want specific, where are they coming from? I submit.
Thank you. I'll allow the coordinator to answer that question. If he doesn't, honorable colleagues will proceed. We still have a lot of issues to look at. I've guided, I hope honorable colleagues are looking at some of the follow-up questions on the same submission as guided, so that we proceed quickly. Coordinator, you can proceed and answer in summary.
Thank you, Chair. Let me state that there are two different trainings here. So one should have been marked Appendix 4A, and then there's also the second appendix, which we should have marked Appendix 4B. And in this one, it stated that 262 farmers were trained from the 5 provinces. In Muchinga province, they were from
the back to office report.
Yes, Chair, from the back to office report.
But why are we
Numbering the schedules. This is what you submitted, so you can't start renumbering the schedule. It's supposed to be what, supposed to be what. Honorable members, I think let's proceed. We are not going to, this is training, we're not going to get answers, we'll keep laboring, we'll give position to the PS. We can move to the next question. The failure to immunize targeted, I think these are cows. And another honorable member can look on the next question and we proceed like that. Honorable Melisiana can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Controlling Officer, I'll take you to page 8 of your submission, failure to meet the immunization target. And in your submission, you have indicated that calves were not immunized against East Coast fever because some farmers were not able to raise the fees charged for ECF immunization. How much is the fee for immunization, and what guarantee is there that even if you enhance sensitization, the farmers will pay? Finally, what is the status of on the number of farmers, of animals immunized so far? I submit.
Thank you. Any other question? Honorable colleagues, there are questions following up to that. Honorable Lomai, you can ask maybe on the next question so that we can progress.
Chair, I just wanted to do a little addition on Honorable Melesena's question because in their corrective action, the ministry stating that the ministry has enhanced extension and sensitization of farmers to adopt the calf immunization. So what I wanted to understand, Chair, whether this program is new, because honestly, if I'm a cattle farmer, I'm told to pay for my calf, and then I fail to pay, then there must be a problem. So I just wanted, as you answer Honorable Melesena's question, to tell this committee why you are now sensitizing farmers. Is this program new, or it is an old program? So if it is an old program, why is the issue of payment becoming an issue today? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. Next question. I want 3 questions. Honorable Amnyuma, can proceed.
Maybe also the PS can put us up to speed with the status of the number of animals that have been immunized. We would like to know, considering that there were these teething issues. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. PS, you have those 3 questions. You can proceed and answer the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The program is an old program. It's 7 years old. The idea is that we started off with a low fee and have been gradually progressing to try and increase the contribution of the farmer towards ECF vaccinations. So it was subsidized by about 80% when we began, and we started reducing it. I don't know exactly at the current calculations what percentage were. Okay, we've reduced it now to 25%, which means that the farmers now are paying 40 kwacha per calf. The increase in the fees has created some resistance among the farmers on uptake, and hence the need to increase sensitization and interaction with the farmers so that they can continue vaccinating their cows. Thank you. The status of the animals, since it's a seasonal vaccination, so the figure remains as in the report. We shall have a new figure for this coming year in June. Thank you.
Honorable members will proceed. Honorable Lumai. Which question, Honorable?
What's the guarantee that even when they train or they persuade these farmers?
Chair.
Yes, sir.
I think there was one question that has not. What's the guarantee that there is that even if you enhance sensitization, the farmer will pay? What guarantee is there?
Thank you. PS, before we proceed, Honorable Sabao. PS, you can switch off the mic.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is a follow-up on Honorable Mice. Considering that from my own experience from where I come from, it's a rural constituency. It's very difficult for our farmers to sell an animal for immunization. So what is the position of the ministry to help the farmers to... What's the position of your ministry on how they are going to help those animals to be immunized despite the farmers not paying? Because I know that on the ground farmers will refuse to pay, and last year I advised my farmers to maybe you sell an animal for you to immunize your animals. They said we can't. So what's the position of ministry in such a situation? I submit.
Thank you. PS, you've got Honorable, I think Mufaradi has rephrased that question, and there's a question. You can proceed and answer the questions.
Thank you. Honorable Chairman, there is no guarantee that the farmers will adopt. All we can do is give them the benefits and the negatives of not vaccinating, and ultimately it's for the farmer to make an informed decision on how he does his farming as a business. There are 2 categories of diseases. There are diseases where we call them, where it's what you call a public good, where it's beyond the farmer to control a disease. And in those ones, government subsidizes 100%. There are others which we call management diseases, which the farmer can deal with 100%. And in those ones, we do not recommend subsidies, because it will be unsustainable for the government, and we believe that farming should be taken as a business. Therefore, the farmer has a responsibility to his own herd. If he decides he doesn't want to look after his animals so that he gets the best returns, all we can do is give him added information so that he makes good decisions. I submit.
Yes, Honorable. There's a follow-up question?
Yeah, there are several questions I think that were asked. I've not yet asked my question. The other question was, what's the status I think there was a question, what's the status of the number of animals vaccinated? Maybe let me ask, controlling officer, you are saying some of the diseases, there are diseases that you come in 100%, and there are diseases that you allow the farmer to sort themselves out. Diseases like this immunization, does it have any effect on some of the markets that we want to penetrate as a nation? Because we are failing to penetrate certain markets in Europe because we have some diseases that I'm told cannot be eradicated. From this end, have you checked the best practices around Botswana and other countries that are actually accessing the European market because they have brought, they have managed to control the diseases around their countries? I submit, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mfarari. PS, you can proceed. Or I read someone marketing, I don't know if it's under the ministry or what. Maybe you can proceed or invite them also to help you in terms of that. You can proceed.
Thank you, sir. I had stated that the number of animals immunized, the status is still the same. It's 157 as whatever, no, not 157, 102. 066 as stated in the report, because the vaccinations are done in a window between June, July. And we have this year we shall vaccinate in June, July, and that's when the number will submit the number for this year. The number for last year, as is in the report, remains the same. We also only vaccinate for this particular disease. It's just calves which are below 6 months of age. If they miss that window, they are not eligible for vaccination. So we don't usually start increasing the numbers as the year goes on. As for the second part of your question on diseases for export, ECF is not a disease that is of concern to importing countries. Whether you have it or you don't have it, they don't care. What they do care about is FMD and foot and mouth disease. We are happy to say we vaccinated adequately last year and brought it down from 9 provinces reporting the disease to only 1, which was Eastern Province, and that was an incursion from a neighboring country. We hope to continue vaccinating adequately against FMD so that other investments that are made into the sector can result in us exporting. It's not just a matter of the disease occurrence. I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Luma, you can proceed. Is that progress or?
Progress, Chair.
Thank you. You can proceed.
Progress, Chair. There seems to be a controversy, Chair. What Auditor General found on the ground is different from what the Ministry is responding to. On page 10, Chair, the Auditor General is stating that before purchased livestock, village stocking and restocking groups will be provided with these loans, there's need for up to 20 days training. Now, we are told that Office of the Auditor General made inquiries with staff at both Ndola and Kitwe District Fisheries and livestock coordinators and selected beneficiary groups, reviewed that there was no training provided. And Chair, in their response, they are saying the acquittal sheets are now available. Documentation was with Ndola. But Auditor General was told that there was no training by your officers. So, Chair, instead to respond to why there was no training, the Ministry is saying documentation was somewhere else. So I wanted that clarification so that we are brought up to speed, so that we can know what the Ministry is responding and what was the query from the Auditor General, because the query is clear and the answer is not the same as the query, Chair. So I wanted to get this clarification as to whether you are responding or maybe you are trying to respond to something else, but by accident your response found itself with a different query. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Any other question to that effect? Page 9 and page 10. The failure to sign contracts with beneficiary groups for this pass-on program. Honorable Amnyuma.
Thank you very much, Chair. Controlling Officer, in your submission you've indicated that farmer groups had signed and designated forms. And now part of your corrective action is that the farmer groups have since signed the contract on formal contracts, on formal contract forms to normalize the contracts. Why are we normalizing? Why don't you just have farmers sign contracts right from the beginning? Because you're creating unnecessary bureaucracy. You make them sign forms, and now collectively formal contracts to normalize contracts. Actually, this response cannot be correct. You cannot normalize a contract that was not there. This is when you are signing, the contracts are being signed. So why is the minister struggling to have contracts signed from the beginning? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed to answer those questions. Thank you.
For the part of Undola, there was, I think, a miscommunication between the auditor and ourselves. What was missing was the acquittal sheets, etc. When they went there, they were not there. Not that the training had not been done, and we have since provided those acquittal sheets for the training. For the second part of the query, I agree. We erred. We should have had the contract forms ready in time when we were distributing the materials. But as you agree, there's also an oral contract. So we went into an oral contract and we formalized the oral contract. Thank you.
Honorable Ferrari, then Honorable Daka, is that a hand?
Chair, I think I have to put to notice the controlling officer. Why I said I understand in the past what was going on in this project. It's quite disheartening when you look critically on this project, what was going on. And even these contracts you are saying you are trying to formalize, there was training, there was too much dirty and you need to clean it. In this same project, we had situations where people were buying, the people contracted to supply some of these missing animals as we will go further. You will find that they go and pick a person who hasn't got cattle to go and get cattle from the one who has. So it was dirty. I think you need to clean up the system.
Thank you, Honorable Ferrari, for that intervention. Honorable Luma, you can ask your question. Honorable Daka, sorry. You came first. Honorable Daka can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is on the same, the failure to conduct training on page 10. The controlling officer submitted that in her appendices that training was conducted in August and October 2022. Controlling officer, is it in your submission that the animals were distributed after the training? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. I don't want to divert the PS further. I'll keep my question. I'll ask PS to proceed and answer those two questions, then I'll have my intervention. Honorable Luma, you come in, then I'll also ask. PS, you can proceed with, I think there's a question from Honorable Daka. Then Honorable Ferrari, I think that was a statement, or I don't know, maybe you can also have a comment on that. You can proceed.
Thank you, Honorable. Failure to conduct training. The training, yes, some of it was conducted after the distribution of the livestock. I think there had been pressure that the livestock be distributed quickly, and the training didn't come on time. As for the mistakes of the past, we take responsibility as the officers now running the ministry, and we are trying to put things in order. And that may be why you find the project coordinator is also struggling. He's a new person, and a lot of the staff there are new to try and clean up the mistakes of the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Lumai. Chair, if the submission by the PS is what we are going to take as a committee, then it means this piece of information needs to be removed from the Auditor General's report. Because the information which is here, it appears in the handbook for the Auditor General. So if the PS is saying that this was miscommunication, so how was she responding to a query which has not been asked? Because the query here is very simple. They did not conduct training. And this information was given to Auditor General by her own staff and beneficiaries on the Copper Belt. So even giving us the training schedules and all those things, maybe the minister is at sea, maybe Auditor General can help this committee, or we remove this piece of information from the hard copy of the Auditor General. Chair, I submit.
Thank you. Maybe AG can clarify the issue before we proceed.
I think, just to follow up, I think the PS mentioned something. The query was that when we were in the field, including the districts, the criteria, if you look at the report, is that training had to be conducted before the animals were distributed, and
the chickens?
Livestock, actually, it's livestock, yes. So the PS had indicated a while ago that there was that pressure to distribute the animals before the training. So that is the query, that why were the animals distributed before the training? Because the requirement was that these people are trained. But also, just probably to remind the PS, when we earlier raised this query on 23rd June, she responded, and the clarification she gave was that management appreciates the audit finding. We wish to state that the trainings were planned as stipulated in the program design report, but the training could not take place because of delayed disbursement of funds from OFID. However, the contracted livestock suppliers needed to deliver livestock before expiry of their contracts, and this entailed that the program had to take the livestock packages to the beneficiaries before they could be trained. To mitigate this, basic animal husbandry training were delegated to the trained community facilitators, while the backup training by the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock staff would be done when the funds were available. So, Honorable Umai, our query still stands. I submit.
Thank you, AG, for that clarification. PS, just to affirm on Honorable Mufarari's assertion to say this program was marred with a lot of irregularities. I can assure you I don't even know how training could have been done in some of the aspects, because even in my constituency, some people were coming in the night to give chickens, and they just pitch up a tent somewhere. Very senior people in the ministry will come, line up women, give them a chicken each. While me, I was giving 50 chickens to women groups as myself, but I don't know how government would come and line up people and give them a chicken each or 2 chickens. So for sure, this program meant well for the Zambian people, but the way it was conducted, I think we implore you that there's an improvement. And not only that, there were a lot of, they also used some of these avenues as campaign tools to give chickens in different jurisdictions. So I think it's important that we clean up this system and ensure that these programs benefit the ordinary Zambian people moving forward, who are also well vested with issues of livestock, be it village chicken, and they're also adequately trained according to the program so that we achieve that we want for the Zambian people, and not to divert and use it for our own benefit or such assumptions. So I do agree with him, especially in my district. I've seen in Dollar here, it's been on page 9, it's there, and that did happen. So we encourage you to ensure that that is done moving forward. Honorable Luma, you still have an intervention. You can proceed, then we'll make progress.
Intervention and progress, Chair. Chair, submit that arising from the submission by Auditor General that the response the PS gave from the Auditor General submission is different from what is here. And also, because the query is different and the answer is different, maybe the PS can withdraw what they submitted. And in moving forward, Chair, I wanted the PS to help me or the committee understand a query from page 11 to 12. Why the issue failing to account for vaccines can be attributed to a discrepancy of records between the program's coordinator and those at the lower ranks in the districts. Why should we have a discrepancy of vaccines? According to their submission, the committee may wish to note that the fisheries and livestock officers in the district have no stores officer. Therefore, the district coordinators have been advised to appoint officers to be responsible for the stores management. And the query, Chair, is very simple. Failure to account for 39,872 vaccines.
Honorable Daka, we can proceed with the question, then PS will pick up.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I would want the controlling officer to explain to this committee why she thinks that the records at the PCO are correct and not those at the district coordinator's office. This committee would want to know why you are so much confident that the records that are the PCO are the ones that are correct. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed and answer the questions.
Thank you, sirs. The problem here was that we don't have a stores officer. So what usually happens, or what used to happen, is that an officer will drive, get the vaccine, and immediately go into the field without acquitting it into stores, receiving it in stores and acquitting it out. Then they would vaccinate. Now there's always a difference when you're in the field between the vaccine one gets and the actual recipients of the vaccine. Reason being is there's spillage, there's wastage, and other such things. So you always need to reconcile the figures so that you can reconcile your spillage and other wastage with the actual numbers that you got before. So we were now using, since these districts did not have lists, we were now working to backwards from seeing what were the actual vaccinations that they had, the lists of people who they had vaccinated, what were they actually given, and so on. Thank you.
PS, I would like to take you to page 10 and maybe advise that you withdraw this submission you made according to this failure to conduct training, because in the earlier submission I think you did agree to the position of the Auditor General, though he is now different. So I would like you to just maybe withdraw that one on page 10. The committee may wish to note that the time of the audit, the auditors were not availed with documentation pertaining to training because documents were still with officers in Ndola and Masaiti. That's the one we want you to withdraw. Then we can proceed. Thank you.
It is withdrawn.
Thank you. We'll proceed. So that one still stands. I don't know if PS has answered your question, Honorable Daka. Maybe rephrase, then PS can answer the question.
Chair, my question, controlling officer, is on you're relying on the PCOs of the PCO data with regards to the records on unaccounted for livestock. Why should you rely on the PCO's data, not that at the district coordinator's office? That is the question I submit, Chairperson.
Thank you. PS, your coordinator wants to answer the question. Maybe they want to help you. And maybe through the PS, or PS, you can delegate the question.
Mr. Dr. Nirongo, please.
Dr. Nirongo, you can proceed, and I hope you are giving us a good answer. Proceed.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, PS. Why the records at PCO are relied upon is because, one, that's where the contract sits, and then second, when the vaccines are received, they are received by a stores officer, and then from there they are transmitted to the district via the stores officer. So at the e-strip offices, the counting is done to verify that things are received according to the contract I submit.
Progress.
No, Chair.
Honorable Amnuma.
Chair, we understand that submission, but what is informing them as a ministry that PCO has reliable data is, your submission must be backed by evidence. As you have done, you have just submitted the blanket statement. Where is the internal audit for this ministry? Have they verified this submission that he's saying? Where is the proof that, because we do not work with speculation. We've had situations where people just submit their mind, but here in this committee you don't submit your mind. You must have things attached. So, Chair, through you to the controlling officer, we want this to be verified, because it's not factual. I submit.
You can proceed.
Failure to this one, the unaccounted for livestock, and I was listening to the answers from the controlling officer and to the director or the coordinator there. It doesn't seem to hold any water for me. When they were designing this project, did you put in mind, or did you put in place issues to ensure that there is accountability? Because the way I'm listening to the submissions, they are saying in certain areas they didn't have stores officers, and then things were the one who comes to collect so there was no system, in short. Why didn't you design a system that should answer to some of these challenges that you have to face in the field? Or to train the same extension officers to say, when you are picking, you record what you have picked, and when you come back, you report to yourself and indicate what has been brought back. So in this, we are seeing a situation where you were literally going, and you come into whether it's in the refrigerator, you pick the medicines, you go, you don't even write how many you have picked, or there is no report to indicate the extension officer how many he has picked, and he goes off, he goes on a motorbike maybe, or a bicycle, then he comes back. He didn't record anything. That's what you're telling the committee, that there was nothing like that. And that's the design of the project. Whoever designed the project, he designed it in such a way that there was too much pilferage. That someone should come, collect, go, and come back and then does not account. But we know very well what was going on here. People benefited here, they built houses. So now, the situation which was prevailing or which prevailed is not good enough for you to have a system coordinator. I don't know whether you are the coordinator that time, to have a system where people go and don't report anything or don't document anything, including medicines and chickens and goats and cows. They just go and they have their field day. Further, Chair, when I look at the pricing, what was happening from the Auditor General's office, what was happening is you have put 115 as a cost of chicken. I don't know what type of chickens these are, but they are costing 115. These chickens bought in Shiwangandu. I've been to Shiwangandu. I've moved into Shiwangandu. I've bought a chicken there, a village chicken to eat, and I never bought it at 115. I've bought goats for my teams. I've never bought a goat for 900 kwacha or a chicken for 500, because I know of a district where under this project they were buying chickens for 500 kwacha. And now I'm asking myself, Chair, here, what type of chickens are these which were costing at 115? Were they imported or what? What type of a goat is this that was costing 900 kwacha when goats were costing 250 and 300 kwacha? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Lumai.
Yeah, really, Chair, this query is causing trouble in my around my body, Chair, because the answer and the query seem not to tally. And Chair, the query is on 39,872 livestock and CDBPP vaccines costing 7,642,347. Auditor General is saying there was no goods issued vouchers and the distribution lists of beneficiaries of these vaccines. And the response, Chair, we are being told is that because they don't have stores officers, then we have got this discrepancy. And Honorable Daka asked a straightforward question that why does the ministry feel the records by the coordinator are correct than those at the district offices? And Chair, we're not getting an answer, because Chair, if these vaccines worth 7.6 million are distributed, we expect somebody to own them, to say, I received them, I distributed them. Now, Chair, we have a situation where we don't have goods issued vouchers, the list of beneficiaries is not there, and Chair, we are told it was an issue of discrepancy of records, and we are told coordination was a problem. And Chair, I don't know how the PS will help this committee understand this query, so that the committee should not say maybe we need the resubmission, because Chair, looking at the amount of money, and this is March and April 2022 under the new Dawn government. So if the PS can give us a correct position regarding this query.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed and answer those questions. Honorable members are laboring to understand what transpired. You can proceed.
Thank you, sirs. The chickens, I am told, were Sassels, brought from Heartland. There were also some bought via contractors who were contracted to buy these chickens, so I guess they were buying from various sources and adding their markup, and hence the price that is looks inflated. There are two I withdraw the word looks inflated.
Yes, we are withdrawing quickly.
It's not on the PS is saying he is informed. Who informed her that these were being given to contractors to... who informed you, controlling officer, that there were people that were contracted? And this comes back to what I earlier indicated, Chair, when I was saying the ministry was going to people who don't have animals, who don't have chickens, and they give the contracts to these people that do not have even a single goat, to say go and look for these animals. Then these same people go to the farmers now and undercut the farmers and give the ministry these figures. They are now saying that maybe because they were putting up markups. This was total chaos here. And this is just the controlling order. These are just how many districts? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 districts are giving you these figures. Go down to Southern Province, go to Western, you will see for yourself that there was total chaos. So I'm now wondering who informed, or who are the people who are saying they were contracted and then later on markups were put. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed with the 3 questions, which we...
The records at the office show that there were contractors given these contracts. If you need them to be submitted, we can submit the contracts that were signed with the project. The other question was on the vaccines. Yes, there is what shall I call it? A CBP vaccine is not sold. It's free of charge. So, and the people who disburse this one are the VAs in the field. A lot of times all they do is give certificates to the vaccination certificates to the farmers. The systems that are coming in now are new, and we have to train our people to add on this new system of acquitting, etc. Because previously it was believed that once you've issued a certificate, the certificate in itself is proof that you've used that medicine. We will labor to improve our systems so that the new methodology is taken on board.
Honorable Mfarari.
Yeah, I had asked earlier on, I think, I wanted to know who was the coordinator of this project. Who was the coordinator of this project? Or who is the coordinator? Was it the same one who is sitting with us, or there was another one? And where is that person who was managing this project? If there is any change in terms of office bearers, I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Amima.
Chair, I also asked the PCO's, read on Honorable Daka's question. The PCO's information, which you are saying is correct, what informs that? And the person in charge of internal audit, have they verified this? Can they submit before this committee that they verified? Maybe we can be helped with internal audit.
Thank you. We can have internal audit where there's Dr. Nyirongo, if I'm correct, to just help us with that issue which Honorable Amima is raising. PS, you can proceed and answer the 2 questions.
The coordinator, we've had several over the years. In the period that this audit report is covering, it was Dr. Kaoma. He is now at Cabinet Office. He's Director in Holding. Dr. Muluruma came in this year, I think in May. The other part of the question, I'll hand over to Dr. Muluruma.
Coordinator, you can proceed with Honorable Amima's question. Then we make some progress. We need answers, then we can make some progress. Then internal audit, you can verify if that assumption which is being submitted before this honorable committee to say documents from the other PCO are more authentic than the documents from the other districts. If they pass through your office, you can proceed. And if for internal audit you did verify to that effect. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Allow me to request Director of Vet Services to respond to Honorable Amnima's question.
Thank you, Chair.
I thought there was only one person who should delegate questions, who is myself or the PS. Now we have other people shifting camp. PS, you can proceed, Director of Vet Services, and answer the question.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, PS. Actually, literally what happens for the vaccines is that the department does put the order for the vaccines on behalf of the project. Therefore, we receive the vaccines and hand over to the project as a department. Therefore, together with accounts, internal audit, we do take care of the accountability of the vaccine before we distribute it to the project. So as a team, the entire team does that before we hand over to the project for further distribution to the utility points of the department through the mechanisms. I thought I should clarify that we put in the order for the vaccine ourselves, knowing the quantities and the type of vaccine that we need for that particular usage. And as we receive together with internal audit and accounts, then we are accountable for the quantities before the project is issued, all those things, because they work under us in the ministry. So we have we handle the process of importation and utilization in the field, but it has to pass through the project before it goes to utilization on the ground. I thank you, Chair.
So, Director of Vet Services, what are you saying? Are you saying, are you agreeing to the assumption before this honorable committee that your documents are more accurate than the other documents? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Chair, because our documents are usually backed by even reports from NAC, which will go through the importation that arrives through them. They will verify that the actual quantities that have been received are these quantities.
Thank you. Maybe before Honorable coming, maybe internal audit, let's hear internal audit to submit. Let's have internal audit. Then Honorable Mfarari will come in with your question, sir. Internal audit maybe can proceed and affirm or tell us if you've done your verification. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. A verification was not done. However, the same concern was raised with the program, and I think we had a discussion over the same. Thank you.
We make progress. Honorable Mfarari. Honorable Amnima.
Chair, the gentleman just misled the committee. The director, he comfortably, eloquently misled the committee. And we cannot accept that, Sir Director, to mislead the committee that we check as a team. Because you see, you must bring your footprints, internal audit signs in red. So these things are not checked and you are submitting. It's submitted before this committee. And internal audit there is saying there was no verification. So he's out of order and must withdraw his submission.
Chair.
Honorable Mfarari, then I'll...
Further, Chair.
I reserve my ruling.
I know the staff is really trying to answer these questions. But what you are answering, or what you are trying to tell this committee, that actually the record from the director is correct. It's not true. It's not even correct. Because the audit query is right at the base, on the grassroots where these things are supposed to be applied. So yes, you might have the records straight upstairs. But downstairs here, there is nothing. And that's where the query is. Much as you can show the records of national airports and whatever transmission of this, movement of these drugs and so forth, what we are talking about is on the ground, the effect on the ground. And the chair, maybe the controlling officer can tell us, did you at any time evaluate, conduct an audit performance of this project to see how much it has been performing? Because from what we are seeing, this whole project is something else. And you have a person or persons who mishandled the projects, and you are moving them to go and sit somewhere comfortably. It's not fair. People should account for what they have done, not to be moved to go and sit in cabinet and start sitting there. No. 2 years later, then they come back again at the same ministry and start doing the same things. It's not fair. So I think much as the project you are saying up within the directorship, when you are moving to the project, the records would be straight. But the moment they are beyond your jurisdiction, which is the project, this is where the query is. It has moved from this. The query is not at your directorate. The query is at the project. And unfortunately, I think the person who was handling this same audit, whatever, is it Dr. Kawama? Yes, sir. He must have come here to account for all these activities which he did. Let's not allow people to start going scot-free. People should account for what they have done. We are fighting poverty, and this poverty fight should go to the grassroots itself. Now you are finding a situation of, this is just a sample. Close to 8 million kwacha is lost. What about other districts? These are only 5 districts. What if they conduct a thorough audit in all the districts where this project was going on? It will be total chaos. You will go, millions would have been missing here, or they are missing already. This is just a sample. And Dr. Kawama should have been brought here to come and account for what he was doing with this project. I submit.
Thank you. First and foremost, is it Director of Vet Services? Yes, I think so. I want you to withdraw your submission to that effect. What you are alluding to was not done. We don't know in your ideal situation if that was usually happens, but at this particular instance it didn't happen. So I want you to withdraw that statement. Then PSU proceed to give a comment on Honorable Mfarari's question and statement to that effect. Because for sure those people were giving chickens in the night, they shouldn't sit quietly somewhere. They should come and tell us why they did so and why. Because that was not personal money for someone to go and parade themselves in the night and give chickens to some women groupings who probably went to fry the chicken and call it empowerment, whatever they called it. Director of Vet Services, I want you to withdraw the statement. We proceed.
I am withdraw, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed and make comment. Then we, honorable colleagues, we need to make progress because this issue we seem not to have an adequate answer. So PS, a short comment on Honorable Mfarari's question and statement, you can proceed.
Thank you, Honorable. We take cognizance of your concerns, and as I said earlier, we need to improve our systems, and we are putting in place systems. The moving of the officer to holding was to stop continued leaking. It is not the end of the story, and we shall come back and report. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable colleagues. We proceed. We are looking at accounting irregularities, page 13. Honorable Mukumbi can tackle unretired accountable interests. Honorable Amnima can look at unsupported payments, CBP vaccinations. Then Honorable Melesiana, you can look for, you can question on accountable store. That will be the end of this paragraph, so you can proceed. We'll proceed to another paragraph when those three questions are asked and answered. We can go to 40.6. That is provincial and for provincial and district fisheries and livestock. This will be our last paragraph. So whoever is ready, Honorable Wamima, if you are ready, you can proceed. Then Honorable Mukumbi and Honorable Melesiana can proceed. Those three questions. Others, you can have follow-up questions. Yes. Which one is this one now? Have you asked on unsupported payment?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we'll proceed to the next set of questions. Yes, Honorable.
My question was
not answered.
Not answered, yes. The question was on the performance of this project. Did they carry out any performance audit to look at how this project has performed in the provinces and districts where it was running or where it is running?
Thank you. Before PS proceeds, honorable colleagues, so we proceed. Honorable Mukumbi, you look at failure to insure animals, failure to mark animals, Shangombo, DFLO, with those two questions. Then, now. We have similar questions, accounting irregularities and accounted for store, payment of irregular subsistence allowance. I think we did tackle this one. It's the same recommendation PS on this one. We won't look at it. Honorable Wamnyima, unacquitted payments, Batoka Fisheries and Livestock, Southern Province, can do that question, together with an accounted for store. Then we proceed. Just want you to have the questions in. Failure to secure title deeds, Honorable Melesiana Piri. Failure to insure motor vehicles and motorcycles, Vice Chair. Then we'll be done. Those are the questions. PS, you can proceed with Honorable Mufarari's question. Other honorable members, you can chip in where you see need, you can ask questions. But I've guided those questions, we'll proceed like that. PS, you can proceed with Honorable Mufarari's question on performance audit or evaluation. You can proceed, thank you.
We have not done a performance audit of the program. I submit.
Yes, Honorable Mufarari.
If I heard the controlling officer correctly, he says this project has been running for 7 years. So in 7 years, have you ever conducted any evaluation within these 7 years? Since the previous year, you would have not conducted any evaluation or performance audit, and we are wondering why you should continue with something that you don't seem to understand very well, how it's performing or it's not performing. Yes, so when was the last performance audit conducted?
Thank you. PS, have you done an evaluation of this program? If it's achieving its objectives to that effect or not? Or if it was not done now or in this period or the previous period, has it been done before? Maybe that's the question. You can proceed.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yes, the project has been evaluated. It was evaluated during the midterm, which was about 3.5 years ago. and it was deemed to be satisfactory and running according to the project design. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, you can proceed with the questions as guided. Whoever is ready, you can proceed and ask your question. Honorable Mukundu, you can proceed.
Chair, I believe I'm looking at failure to insure animals. Great. Controlling officer, I'm looking at your response here, I think on page 20, where you are saying you did not insure the animals because you did not have funding. And we note that government lost about 156 animals, which to us is a very, very big number. So I don't know what measures you've put in place as a ministry to avert such going forward. Secondly, have you sought any guidance from the Secretary of Treasury so that probably they can look at the funding issues? Because if we don't, we'll keep losing quite a number of animals. And if you have done that, is there a write-up? Chair, submit.
Thank you. I think Honorable Amima can ask so that PS can look at those questions. Maybe you can ask one to add on to that.
Chair, I'm supposed to look at unaccounted for stores and unaccounted for stores and irregular payment of subsistence allowance. Controlling officer, just put us to speed. Page 21 of your submission, you have submitted that your ministry in the process has inadequate staff, including stores officers, which we agree, but you could not provide evidence during your audit for disposal details for verification during audit. Why couldn't you provide this during audit?
Thank you. Thank you. PS, you can proceed with the three questions, I presume. From Honorable Mukumbi and Honorable Amnyima, you can proceed.
Due to the constrained physical space that we find ourselves in, there was a decision about 3 years ago to stop funding the breeding centers, that they should be on a 100% retention and raise their own resources. This decision hasn't worked out very well, in that instead their capacity to earn money has been reducing and not increasing. Having seen that as an effect, we as a ministry wish to offload these breeding centers. So we are actually now actively working with Ministry of Finance to try and come up with private partners to run the breeding centers. Because it's not just financing, but even the staffing levels. A lot of these breeding centers do not have a proper structure to run them adequately. They are being run by casual employees, which is not in the best interest of the institutions. So that is what we are working on now, to try and find private partners to offload these assets. We've also tasked the department that is in charge of the breeding centers to try and put most of the animals that we have into a concentrated space. It will make it easier for us to stop losing resources whilst we are in the process of trying to offload them. Thank you.
Thank you. PS, I don't know if you've addressed Honorable Wamnyima's question.
Unaccounted for stores. Okay, maybe I can even just give the other one as well, unacquitted.
Yeah, you can give. You can proceed.
On no. Actually, I think for unaccounted for stores, since it's similar, we can skip it. I think I'll go to regular payment and this Batoka. Controlling officer, when you look at page 23 of your submission, there's this 42,000 paid in allowances, subsistence allowances on fish ban patrols and manning of checkpoints. Why, again, you didn't provide this evidence of this during audit process? Why wasn't this provided for? Then on unacquitted payments, Batoka Fisheries and Livestock Development Center, could you assist this committee to understand where the group interest obtained by officers was verified by external auditors? And are you not aware of the Ministry of Finance, Treasury and Finance Management Circular number 1 of 20, which guided that controlling officers, no cash should be withdrawn for payment of subsistence allowances? If you are aware, why did you authorize payment of this nature? Batoka Fisheries and Livestock. So those are my 3 questions, Chair. Submit.
Thank you. PS, you can proceed with those 3 questions.
I think I'm getting a bit tired. I apologize. I'm a bit behind in the questions. The ministry is very much aware of the audits, the circulars, and we endeavor to follow the circulars as instructed. Now for the fish ban, I think I'll hand it over to my Director of Fisheries. I do not understand why these documents were not there.
Director of Fisheries, you can proceed and answer the question. Director of Fisheries, where's Director of Fisheries?
I'm trying to understand what the query is.
PS, we've got just a few, before we proceed, Director, we've just got a few questions. We don't want to break and come back for lunch. So we just want to get done with you. Director, you can proceed.
Chair, thank you very much. These are officers, I think, who went on a fishing ban during the period that is being mentioned, and because they were actually traversing between 2 districts, so they were actually entitled to the allowances, unless the report they were given was otherwise. But our understanding is that in the Lower Zambezi we have 2 districts. There is Rufusa and Luangwa.
Honorable Omima.
First of all, Chair, out of the 3 questions, only 1 has been answered. I asked the controlling officer, what she's also not answered is if she could show the committee proof that this interest obtained by her officers was verified by the auditors. That's at Batoka Fisheries and Livestock. Then the Director of Fisheries is answering a question I have not asked. The query is not the entitlement, whether they were entitled to be paid for 2,004 patrols. That's not the query. The query is that you did not provide proof of this during the audit process. Why didn't you provide proof of this during audit? That's the query. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. PS, maybe you can proceed with the other question. Then Director Fisheries, well, maybe is checking properly. Can we make it? Can he resubmit his answer? Can proceed, PS.
Internal auditor, please, if you could answer.
Internal audit, you have a submission as directed by PS. You can proceed.
There's internal audit in the province, as well as internal audit at headquarters. So when payments are being made outside headquarters, then they are dealt with by provincial auditors. So in this case, I may not be privy to the information that the payment was actually verified or not. I submit.
Thank you. Director Fisheries, Honorable Wamnyima, I think rephrased and gave you guidance. Do you have any submission? Before I allow the two questions, I know some questions are still hanging, they have not been answered. Yes, Director Fisheries, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I think what we can probably say is that
yes, Honorable Farari.
I can see the Director of Fisheries is struggling to understand what the audit query is. I don't know why. Because these are your queries under your department. The audit director should not come here and start trying to understand what the query is when these queries were given way back in his department. And he comes here, is now trying to understand what really went on. And that applies even to the Director of Finance. Where is the Director of Finance? Yes, Director of Finance. You are transferring issues that are falling right under your armpit to the Auditor General. You are the person who is in charge of the ministry. When you release money to the province, you are the one who is supposed to understand how that money has been utilized. And if the query comes the way it has come, you should have taken time to understand what really transpired at the province. Now we're coming here, the question goes to the auditor. The auditor says, I don't audit the provinces. Then you are also quiet here as Director of Finance. You must be in charge of your department. This is under the Minister of Livestock, and we cannot sit here to start wondering what really transpired at the provinces, be it at Livestock, Fisheries Department, or even under the Finance Department. These two should answer for things that seem not to be, that we are failing to understand. And they must, these queries, take queries seriously. Controlling officer, I think your directors should take these queries seriously. They should not come here and start opening pages, wondering what happened in some provinces, wondering what happened to the monies, and then we are asking even maybe wrong people to say, tell us what happened. It must not be. Including the project. The person who should have come to answer here to controlling officer is the person who was sitting there. We were busy asking the doctor there about things which he didn't seem to know or didn't make any decision on. And yet, the person who was sitting there is sitting at cabinet. He should have come here because other directors have come here, including permanent secretaries who are sitting those ministries before. No one should be special. Mr. Kauma should have, Dr. Kauma should have come here to answer. So now these two directors controlling this, let them answer for what was going on at the provinces. Because they are the ones in charge. They should not start opening pages here.
Thank you, Honorable Mfarari, for that intervention. PS, I don't know if your directors are ready to give answers to the questions which have been asked by the honorable members. Then I'll allow the other two honorable members, once that is answered, to ask two questions. We know people are getting tired, so that we can quickly wrap up and give you the position of some of the issues which you submitted before this honorable committee. I'll ask the director, maybe fisheries or finance, to proceed and answer for now, since PS has been answering throughout since morning. Thank you. If you don't have an answer, tell us there's no answer, we proceed and give position.
Thank you, Chair. The understanding is that the query was on payment of allowances within the district. And that's what I was trying to explain, that during the fishing ban, even if an officer is situated in one district, they do traverse into another district. For example, you have a situation where an officer is in Wangwa, but he can go up to Rufunsa to actually conduct the operations. So at that point, then they're entitled to the allowances. That is under the fishing ban, according to this to the query that we have here.
Director of Finance.
Thank you, Chair. On the query on unacquitted payments, under Batoga Fisheries Livestock Development Center in Southern Province, Chair, according to the records that we have, actually the acquittals were actually verified by the auditors, and it appears that probably there was just it was brought in by mistake, but otherwise we have documented evidence to that effect.
Auditor General. Auditor General, can you clarify? Then we proceed. Member Auditor General is checking. Honorable Melisiana, are you ready with your question? And Honorable Sabao.
Thank you, Chair. Controlling Officer, I'll take you to page 24 of your submission on failure to secure title deeds. In your submission, you have said that the Ministry had engaged Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources on this matter, although little progress has been made. This committee is finding it difficult to understand your submission, and it is our view that there is not much attention being attached to this issue, despite properties having been in existence for a long, long time. Why is titling of public properties not being given attention? And my second question is, what is the current status with regards to engaging the provincial surveyors' offices on this matter? I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Sabao.
Thank you, Chair. PS, in your submission on page 25, you stated that some of the vehicles and motorcycles have since been insured, while others will be insured soon. My question is, what assurances are you giving the committee that this anomaly will not recur in future audits? I submit, Chair.
Thank you. Auditor General can clarify that issue. Then PS, those questions on title deeds and insurance of motor vehicles and motorcycles. Can proceed, AG.
Thank you, Chair. I think Chair, Director Finance is aware that once we verify, we issue what we call a status report. And for him to submit that it's by mistake, he should be able to refer to the status report where we resolved it. I'll read the status report. The status report on the query states that acquittal sheets for payments in amounts totaling 26,852 were availed for audit verification, leaving a balance of 39,153 outstanding. Therefore, the matter is outstanding with regard to the remaining balance of 39,153. Chair, this is the 39,153 that is in the Auditor General's report. Unless There's another status report I submit.
Mr. Director of Finance, you want to mislead us again. That is by mistake. When Auditor General has got a status report, that's why we tell you this committee is committee of evidence which you should provide. And Honorable Wamjima said we don't want submissions from your head, which you should bring before this committee, because now you are pushing us backwards. We want to make progress. If you don't have an answer, we've stated that, say, I can't comment because I'm not aware. We stand by the submission which has been given. Because if you start making other submissions, Director of Finance, you are telling us what the PS has submitted is not correct, and we want us to send her back. With you together, you go and resubmit and come back and reappear, which we don't want to do. So if you're not sure on an issue, or you don't have documentary evidence, don't comment, or just pass it to say those who have got adequate information can comment to that effect. So I want you to withdraw your statement, Director of Finance, what you just submitted. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the information on the ground is stated, and I think interactions were done with the auditors on the ground. And in our response, Chair, if you read the response from the controlling officer, it indicates that these records were actually verified, and there was ink to that effect to indicate that they were cleared. I submit, Chair.
Director of Finance, your PS received this document, which is here, before the Auditor General. Unless PS you want to go back and resubmit, and then we send back Auditor General, because your Director of Finance is giving us another position. I want your comment, PS, because Auditor General, they've got this status report which is submitted to you on the 26th of July 2022 to your office, stamped permanent secretary. It's here. Unless it was not read or you didn't sit with your officers to look at that status report, then they have got other submissions. Maybe help us on that, PS. You can proceed.
We withdraw the submission of the director and stand by the one that is in the report.
No, PS, I want the Director of Finance to withdraw his statement, because it was not said, we are verbatim, that was not said by the PS. I want him to firmly withdraw the statement, or he should stand by his submission. Director of Finance, you can proceed.
I withdraw the statement, Chair.
PS, the questions have been asked about the title deed and also the issue of insurance. Maybe we can just quickly look at that, then we can proceed.
Title, we keep following it up with Ministry of Lands. We've even written to our provincial fisheries and livestock coordinators to remind them that they need to keep pushing, because we've been guided that now it can all be done. Previously we had been given a bill for everything to be put under Mulungushi House, which was not possible for us to do. So now we've been guided that we can go through the provincial surveyors. And I have some documents here which show that we have been asking for our officers to push it. Yes, a lot of government properties have not been are not titled, and that was that previously the policy was that they shouldn't be titled. You just needed the drawings, and that was sufficient. It was only some 10 years ago when that policy was changed, and because of that, there is a backlog of government properties that need titling. So I think we are caught up in the backlog. I submit. Assurance for insurance, it's one of the priorities. We've told all our officers in the provinces that insurance should be a priority for all running motor vehicles and motorcycles, and we will continue to encourage all our officers to ensure that insurance is obtained. I submit.
Yes, Honorable Ferrari, can proceed.
Livestock has a lot of work to do. The controlling officer on insurance and title deeds, you are generalizing that the government has a backlog. I think it's incumbent on your ministry to have title deeds. We have met some of the ministries that have come here who are controlling, with their controlling officers. They give a list of the status, or they give us a status report of their properties, wherever they are dotted, and how much they have moved this far. But I get so concerned when the ministry starts generalizing that they have a backlog and so forth. I think we need to see improvement in that area. We need to seriously see improvement in that area. Chair, let me end there. There is a question that I want to ask.
Honorable, if you have a question you can ask, we should be winding up now. We can proceed and ask the question. Then we can wind up the business. You can proceed, Honorable Ferrari. Thank you so much.
But Chair, it was a concern.
Speak through the mic, Pierre.
It was a concern. Chair, it will remain a concern when we said the livestock has a lot to do. You know, there are issues that we have been raised here that we have just told the controlling officer say withdraw, and then we are left at sea as a committee to understand what's the position. One of which I think is the allowances, and actually that's where my question was coming to. On some of the patrols that were being conducted by the staff under Fisheries Department, there is concern. You are saying well, the report indicates moving from Rufusa to Rwangwa and back, or even manning a patrol. I don't know how you draw your allowances, how you want to tell us that they were entitled when they are within their district. That is one.
It was not part of the activity report.
Yes. So, and it's not part of the activity report as my brother is putting it here. The second concern which we are seeing under your ministry controlling officer is where the directors are coming and don't seem to understand very well what is within their departments, or what the query is all about. That is a concern. But now, Chair, we want to know if when they withdraw, what is the position? I think the audit query was they managed to get some of the acquittals, but other acquittals were missing. So what is the status on the missing acquittals? That's what we want to know. So when you just tell us, or the committee is just being told, we withdraw. You have withdrawn, yes, on your statement that do not seem to be in line with what you have submitted. What is the status? That's what we would want to know. What is the status? Why do you have to pay someone who is within his boundary of work or jurisdiction? You are paying. Even if is he entitled? Is that what you are telling the committee, that if I'm working in Rwangwa and I go and man a roadblock and I come back, then I'm entitled to an allowance? That's what we want to know.
Thank you, Honorable Ferrari. PS, do you have a quick comment on that? Then I can proceed now to wind up the meeting.
No comment.
Thank you so much, PS. First and foremost, PS, we do appreciate your coming before this honorable committee. But let me make mention, like Honorable Mfarari has been laboring to also just highlight some issues which are in your ministry and which would want you to vet and ensure that you mitigate some of those issues happening. We've got a lot of issues and for accounting irregularities, I think in the project, in the mainline ministries and the districts. And we employ PS that your director finance and the entire finance system together with the Office of the Internal Audit, let them coordinate very well and ensure that some of these irregularities, financial irregularities are mitigated, because internal audit will highlight to Director Finance or Finance Department, this is not correct, don't do this, so that as and when before the Office of the Auditor General comes in, some of these issues can be worked on by management, who's yourself and the entire team. It's very, very important. And also issues to do with the project. I think we want all those documentation. I'm asking Auditor General to do a verification in terms of those allowances paid. You're saying they're available for verification, issues of training, issues of immunization, all those things should be verified. Auditor General, take note that you go back and verify those items under the project to ensure that we bring these issues to a close and that the ministry realign in terms of how they are they are running to ensure that this project is more effective, PS. And PS, we do trust that these things will be done by your office together with your directors to that effect. Suffice to say that PS, I think you've got some gray areas in your ministry which you need to work on. There are some queries. I think some of these things I've summarized them, issues of vaccines, distribution of livestock, all those things we want them verified by the Office of the Auditor General to that effect. Then we can look at the way forward. But with that said, PS, let me thank you most sincerely for coming before this honorable committee as Minister of Fisheries and Livestock to appear and answer to some of the questions. And we do encourage you that even before you come before this committee, let your officers or directors take time to look at some of these queries and sit as a team. And also your directors, Director Finance and other directors, do not mislead your PS also. Guide her properly on some of these issues so that when you come before this honorable committee, you give us befitting answers which we will say yes, in certain instances this do happen, and you can proceed as such. So PS, excuse me, with that said, we thank you most sincerely. And now let me take this opportunity to lift the immunity which was conferred before you and your team. That has been lifted, and you are free to go, because I've seen our PS is tired. And we thank you so much, and have a good afternoon. Thank you so much. Honorable
the gross value valuation method.
Onoyo constituency will profile one of the most prominent constituencies in the country.
The constituency is facing a lot of challenges, but the major ones are, number one, poor road network, communication network, no financial institutions, no colleges, no electricity, and inadequate infrastructure in both education and health.
bayuthi nabo onayika mulandu n'obwalwa nabana mayo bonse n'abaponenamu nsunko obwalwa chena nashibonawula
ekyo ndeko nkomesha ndeko obuyantanshi kuno kwanga obutinje ante mkushi noturalima ko ifintu sana sono misevo poor road networks otre challenge tukwete otre shingwana na ena.
In Mukushi, we watch Parliament TV.
Watch Parliament TV, the TV that brings Parliament closer to our community.
Parliament TV kuria,
Keep watching. At 6% royalty